What is up, everybody? Happy Thursday night, special Thursday night edition of Sports Clichés here. We're on episode 9. I'm Jay, that's Craig. Just got finished watching that Thursday night matchup between the Niners and the Titans. Ended up coming down to a really close game. We might as well, I think we'll just jump right into it. Why not? It just happened. I think this was I'm hoping that, honestly, this is a wake-up game for the Niners because everybody was feeling very good about the Niners. Everybody was very hot on the Niners, I think. They had been playing well. They had especially been able to play well in the second halves of games, and this was the exact opposite. This was the first half in which they should have absolutely dominated, didn't take nearly as much advantage as they should have, and they let Tennessee come all the way back to leading this by a touchdown. And the writing was a little bit on the wall at that point. They did rally back, tied this game up, but just a little too soft in that secondary, and before you knew it, you're kicking a 44-yard field goal to win the game right there, pretty much at the end. And right on for the Titans, finish it up. It's a damn shame. It's really disappointing for me. Obviously, I expected a pretty good win, and this would have been a nice little separator between at least 6 and 7 on the wild card board there. Unfortunately, not doing it with that win keeps it still pretty close. All these 500 teams and sub 500 teams that are still in it on the NFC side. So not gonna drop them anywhere. Actually, I think they still stay in the same slot as far as the playoffs are concerned, I believe. But definitely worrying. It puts all those other teams that are right there on the peripheral. You got those Phillies and New Orleans who are right there. They're sniffing at trying to get in there. I think we have some tiebreakers with like Minnesota and stuff like that, but it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting where this ends up slotting us. Maybe it doesn't move us at all. Disappointing loss. You would have loved to actually hone this one in. They really should have, but
Titans defense really played the Niners the way you have to, right? If you want to beat this Niners team, you got to take the run game out of it. They did a good job early of making sure that the Niners couldn't really establish the run as well as I think they would have liked. Now, obviously, another thing that helps the Niners not establish the run the way they would have liked is not having any of the running backs they really would have liked to have played in this game, obviously. But if the secret to beating the Niners is simple. If you can make Garoppolo pass the ball 30 to 40 times in a game, you're probably going to win that game. That's not the way the Niners are set up to play, right? You want Garoppolo in the 20s, somewhere from 25 to 29-ish passes, I think, running the ball consistently. If you do that, that's where the Niners probably feel like they have the most success. They forced Garoppolo to throw the ball. He made a couple mistakes. And credit to the Titans defense. Obviously, the Titans offense is still the Titans offense. They didn't move the ball the most efficiently in the world, especially in the first half. I know the yards look a little bit better than they were by the end of the game because A.J. Brown throughout most of that second half just went off. But for the most part, that Titans offense was dead for 3 quarters. And it's a good win for the Titans. It doesn't change my opinion of the Titans any, right? Like I don't come out of this game feeling any better or worse about the Titans or the Niners for that matter, really. Right? Like, it's this weird thing where, you got two teams that are deep in the playoff hunt. Both Titans, obviously, this is a big win for their divisional hopes because Indy's breathing down their neck now. But Tennessee wins this game, San Francisco loses it. Naturally, you'd think, oh, well, that's going to give you a good feeling about Tennessee. Maybe there's some question marks around the Niners. Not really, right? The Niners are exactly the team that we thought they were going into this game. They're stout defensively. They're not going to give up a ton of points. If they can run the ball, they're probably going to have a good time. But if you can stop the run, you're going to have a chance.
Well, I will say, stout defensively to a point. This is the thing that I've seen this with Niners teams in the past. Very explosive off the bat. They were really getting home. That pass rush was really getting there in that first half. Tannehill wasn't able to do anything, and that's why you end up only giving up to 0 points. But the thing with the Niners, and I'll wait for Craig to get back here.
There we go.
It's all gravy. Yeah, no, but so like I've seen this before though. It's gotta like they have this fire in the first half, and they're getting there, and they were getting there against Tannehill. You know, there's a reason why they shut him out. Um, Honestly, you know, you just look at the points left on the board. Just the obviously that early pick in the red zone there by Jimmy, just really trying to force it. I mean, uh, Garoppolo, I mean, he just zoned in. He just wanted to go to Kittle right there. If you're gonna do that, I mean, at least put some loft on that ball to make it a jump ball for your guy, right? You can't just bullet it in there. I mean, the guy had great coverage. I mean, so it's like he just threw it like right. I don't know what the hell he was doing that, and but they were still, you know, they still came out and they had shut him out in that first half. And then you come out in that second half, and uh, I think it was very surprising how much, you know, Tannehill just had all sorts of time, and that's what allowed AJ Brown to start getting downfield, and they just couldn't like they just didn't feel the. There's times where it's just like it's really surprising they're not bracketing this guy. Like you got to start putting two guys on AJ Brown because he's the only guy doing damage to you right now.
Yeah, I thought Josh Norman in particular had a rough time with AJ Brown for sure. It looked like through a lot of that second half, Josh Norman was getting burnt pretty hard by him. And I'm with you. I don't know how you don't double AJ Brown, especially against the Titans team that doesn't have Julio Jones, right?
Yeah,
Like you just there's it's not like you really need to worry about another receiver there, right? It's not like Nick Westbrook is gonna burn you.
well,
Jeff Swaim's not the kind of tight end you need to worry about going off. So I don't see why they didn't start to double up AJ Brown. He was their only weapon.
I mean, I suppose you got to be concerned about Julio, but that obviously wasn't the case this game. They weren't going to him, so that was surprising there. And then yeah, just all of a sudden defensive line. The thing coming into this game, and seeing in the first half, I expected to continue to go into the second half. The Tennessee Titans had three of their starting offensive linemen out this game. And it was showing early. They were getting beat, holding calls and all sorts of stuff, and then all of a sudden they corrected. I mean, I gotta give credit. I mean, honestly, that was it was a tale of two halves, and what goes into that is a change in scheme and taking advantage. I mean, obviously, they started to pick the Niners apart. So many third and longs. That's the thing. Niners defense, you take a look back at it, and it's like, okay, they gave up 20 points. They ended up losing that game. They couldn't stop at the end. If you just looked at first and second down, they played fucking incredible. And third down, they couldn't stop a nosebleed. Like that shit. How many third and 10 pluses are you going to give up? They gave up at least 5 that I can think of that were third and 10 plus. Like, that's incredible, let alone giving up third and 8s and stuff like that. But that kind of will happen from time to time. But to be giving up third and 15s, a third and 22, that one to Julio, because they drew him off sides, so Tannehill had a free play. It's like, that's just silly stuff right there. Defensive line's getting busted down on the line of scrimmage there, giving free plays. And Tannehill, yeah, why not throw it up to A.J. Brown right there? And that's kind of what started it. I think that one, I think it was a third and 22 that they converted due to that offsides into just having the free play. And it just kind of slowly melted from there. So,
Yeah, I will say, modern day NFL, if you're a playoff team, you would expect if your defense gives up 20 points, you should win that game. Right?
True.
That is the modern day NFL, right? True. Like, if your defense gives up 20 points and you are a legitimate playoff team like the Niners are, you should be winning that game, I think. We've talked about the defense, and they did have their struggles. There were positives out of the game, I think, for the San Francisco defense, for sure, obviously. They got to Tannehill early in the game. They were able to cause problems in the first half. I thought Ambry Thomas, who's taken a few lumps, obviously as a starter, made a couple of phenomenal plays for them. He really does look like he might be a bit of a sleeper going forward for that secondary.
He's getting beat, but he gets attacked. He is the guy who's who is having to cover, they keep putting him on the main guy. And that there's some detriment to that because he looks bad in those plays, but that is kind of the life of a player like that, is you're going to be put on their star. And that star, they're a star because they could win jump balls and stuff like that. So he's going to look bad at times, but they're definitely gung-ho on him going out there.
I actually thought he played a couple really good downs on A.J. Brown to the point where they moved A.J. to the other side. Like I said, they moved him away from Ambry and put him on Josh Norman.
Yeah.
Where his athleticism, I think Norman struggled with A.J.'s athleticism, his speed, his height. Right, Josh Norman, a much smarter cornerback than I believe Ambry Thomas is at this point in his career, but not the same athletic profile.
I think we could. I think we've kind of covered some of the bases, but one thing I will still bring up in this game, we usually don't complain about it, on both sides. Where the hell is the offensive pass interference? Good God, both Debo and AJ Brown just absolutely demolished their DBs on plays.
I think it was the 3rd and 22 you're talking about, where AJ goes up to Josh Norman, literally puts his arm around, throws Norman behind him, and catches the ball. And I'm sitting there like,
that was the one later.
How the fuck is that not pass interference? Right? Like, what do you do as a defender there? Because you know damn well, reverse that situation, Josh Norman does the same thing. He throws Brown behind him, catches the pick. That's pass interference all day. You can't do that.
Yeah.
It's crazy, but offensive pass interference isn't a thing anymore. Because you know, with the
Debo's was a little less egregious, but it still was. Like
George Kittle had a couple bad ones too. Here's the thing I will say, I call this the Gronkowski rule because Gronk is the worst for it. If you are a tight end of like 6'5" or above, right, that stature of tight end, right. I don't think Kittle's quite that, but like he's a similar concept, right? Big, tall, makes freak plays in the air, looks like a power forward on a football field. If you're that guy, you are allowed to post defenders when the defender is not allowed to post you, right? Gronkowski does it all the time, where he will stand in front of a defender and literally post him up like he's going to rebound a guy, then catch the ball. Right? Defenders cannot do that to a receiver. However, tight ends can do that to defenders. That's the Gronkowski rule. Kittle does it. Gronk does it. Kelsey does it. Mark Andrews is the worst for it. Offensive pass interference isn't a thing anymore, so it doesn't matter.
I mean, that was, Tennessee was determined to take Kittle away as far as the offensive option.
They did a good job of it, really.
Yeah, no, 2 catches. I mean, he only got targeted 3 times in that game. That's very surprising. That is more in line with how they're utilizing him earlier in the season. And this kind of felt like an earlier season game that the Niners dropped, just not being able to take advantage of those early opportunities, really letting the lead step away. And then old Uncle Mo just all of a sudden kind of slips away from them. And it's like, okay, yeah, they're able to go back and get a touchdown, but you've given 2.5 minutes to a Tennessee offense that has been like, find that spark. You got to do something about A.J. Brown. They just immediately hit A.J. Brown, like first play, when they had him pinned back. And so it's just, it's or actually, no, you know what? On that last drive, I think they hit the tight end, and that was a good call. They did get like one ball out to their tight end there on that play. But anyways, that's just one game. We got a lot of stuff to cover. So yeah, unfortunate loss there for the Niners. Great win for the Titans. And really impressive, honestly, given when you have 3 of your offensive line starters out. I expected that Niners defense to be feasting throughout the game, and they just kind of went completely away in that second half, unfortunately. Only got really one stop. It felt like the entire second half. Yeah. Let's see. One thing I wanted to just hit on. We're kind of 1 week into these COVID protocol changes, and now we kind of see what it is. I think we expected, me and you, the way they kind of rushed this thing through and the way that it was worded, that we were going to see a lot more players actually coming off these lists. And apparently that doesn't seem quite the case. There's still quite a few players being kept on the list, and it looks like a lot more players could be going on the list at really, really bad times. It looks like this week we got actually the NFLPA president and Center for Cleveland Browns, J.C. Treader, is going to be out.
Yeah.
You got Beasley. That's kind of like the big one as far as someone who's come out strictly anti-vax and now is going to have to suffer the stricter protocols that anti-vaccinated players have in comparison. You got like Taysom Hill, and so now the New Orleans Saints, in the middle of trying to make the friggin' playoffs, have to start a rookie because they don't have Simeon either, I believe. So it's just
not as important, but the Houston Texans are getting absolutely killed by COVID Chan right now.
Absolutely.
I think they're up to 23 players on the COVID list.
Yeah. So just kind of interesting. I don't know if you had any thoughts on it. I it's like I definitely obviously think it's I'm surprised by how many more players it seems like are going to be getting kind of attached to this. The randomization, I guess, that the testings would be coming up. Players showing obvious symptoms if they're vaccinated, that sort of thing. It'll be interesting going forward to when some of these players are going to get actually tested. And I mean, honestly, it could come down to teams in the playoffs losing their starting quarterback.
I'm still concerned about the wording of it. Right? Because here's the thing, and the NFL has a problem with this already as it is, without a virus making it worse.
Mm-hmm.
But what constitutes a symptom now, is that going to be the same thing that constitutes a symptom come playoff time? Right? This is a problem the NFL's had for years now with things like concussion protocols, with things like player health and safety protocols, right? Sure. Where for years now, things that, like, a lot of former players have come out and said, listen, what counts as a concussion-like symptom in week 4 is not a concussion-like symptom in the playoffs, and that's a problem, right? So what we see right now is a lot of players being added to the list, and them going, see, we're still doing our job, everything's fine.
Right.
But come playoff time, will that guy who has a little bit of a cough at practice still be considered a COVID-like symptom? Will the guy who's got the runny nose going still be considered a COVID-like symptom?
Well,
right?
I think if they show any symptom, they're then going to get tested, and then obviously. So I think there's going to be a lot of players that don't show any symptoms, especially with this Omicron, and how it doesn't have as front-facing a symptoms. I mean, the Delta, you're out. Like, you have to get through that. But it seems like with this one, it could be kind of masked a little bit more. Whether intentional or not, I suppose. If you don't feel anything, if you feel like a little groggy or something like that, I suppose you can't take that right off the bat. And it's going to be up to some of these. I know, this weekend, Nick Sirianni for the Philadelphia Eagles, self-reported having symptoms, tested positive, is hoping to come back by Sunday.
And again, I wonder how much football culture is going to play a part in this, right? Sports culture in general.
Right.
I say football culture. All sports have this problem, right?
Oh, absolutely.
The more important the games become, the less likely players and coaches are to self-diagnose, right? Not just for, like, we can talk about the pandemic and stuff like that, because that is definitely a thing. But this is a problem for everything, right? I mentioned it. The concussion symptoms, right? Things like that. Leagues need to understand that these are overly competitive people, right? To make it to this level, you are unnaturally competitive. You are not going to say, I woke up, feeling a little sick this morning, wasn't feeling so hot. You're not going to say that right before a divisional playoff game.
Yeah.
Right? And I think that's where my issue with this lies, right? Is you're relying on the players to come up to you and go, listen, woke up this morning, throat's a little bit scratchy, I'm just not feeling so hot, think I might be running a bit of a fever, let's get a test down, make sure that nothing's happening here. Right? Come divisional time, that guy ain't saying shit. right? He's putting on his pads, he's getting to
Right.
practice because he knows that test means he doesn't play in the playoff game, right? And I know we all like to think like, oh, they're not going to do that though. This is different. It's not. When you're that competitive, it's just not because you're going to talk yourself into believing, I'm just I'm just feeling a little bit off today. That's all it is. I'll be fine.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's a point to that. I think there's a point to be said for, whether it's a star player or if you're number 51 on the roster, dude. You think you want to get COVID and be out during the last stretch, to the playoffs or in the playoffs? I mean, those are guys that are just hanging on to their spots, right? So it's like you are going to be the most replaceable instead of having to deal with any protocol with you. You might just get cut,
Yeah.
right?
And especially with the way the world is happening in football nowadays, right?
Right.
You might be number 51 on the roster, right? Number 5 on the depth chart. 4 guys in front of you could all get it, right?
Exactly.
And now you're number 1 on the depth chart.
And I think that's one of the things. And it's like I gotta say, like, from just because we are seeing teams decimated by it, right? We're
Yes.
seeing, we had the the Washingtons and the LA Rams and the Clevelands last week that had to deal with it. We have the Houstons this week. I'm not too sure who else is being really severely hit by it this week, but you got to think that was, the way this thing spreads. It's just one guy, and it's one guy that potentially did feel crappy, and might have known, and brought into a building and took out a third of his team basically due to that. So I mean, in the most competitive standpoint, it's like when you got like the head coach is going to not be seen as drastic, as far as the players, but those players that do kind of self-report, that might be something you see as a part of as a negative as far as their competitiveness, but they might be saving their team.
Oh, make no mistake.
It's like it's just crazy, but it's crazy the two sides of it, right? It's like
when I made that competitiveness thing, I wasn't saying that like somebody self-reporting doesn't show enough competitiveness. That wasn't my point here.
Yeah.
Right. My point was I feel like with most of these guys, and
no, I agree.
There's background experience with this, right? It's not like we're trying to guess at this. How many times have we heard about guys getting surgery after the playoffs?
I mean,
playing on torn ACLs and shit like that. That's gonna ruin you for the rest of your life.
Michael Jordan is praised for the flu game, right? Motherfucker, you are sitting right next to all your teammates.
Yeah.
Which is the flu, which is highly contagious. Like, he wasn't even wearing a fucking mask. Like, he's probably talking, like, right at his guys and shit like that. It's like, get the fuck away from me, Jordan. You're sick. So, it's just hilarious in there's it's kind of like the selfless act that you got to, like, take yourself out of it. But, yeah, I mean, that would be the right move. You have COVID, it's going to, like, you have the real potential to take out a lot of your team, then you got to report that shit. But obviously, the competitiveness and all that, I agree, does go into that.
I think it was Colt McCoy. I was trying to think. I think it was Colt McCoy. Texas was in the Big 12 championship game. Gets destroyed. Gets up, can't even stand up. Goes into the tent. 5 minutes later, boom, back on the field. Let's go, baby. Right?
Yeah, right.
Like, these are things that you look back on nowadays and you go, that guy was fucked and should have never been near a football field for the rest of that game. Right? These are the kind of people we're dealing with, right? And again, not using that as a positive or a negative. This is just who they are, right? To get to that level of athletic prowess, that's who you are. You get back out there, man. I'm going to keep going because I want this that much more. Right? Think about every sports commercial you've ever seen in your life, right? You gotta dig that for that extra inch. You gotta beat that guy who's training at 5:30. You gotta be up at 5, right? If he gets up at 5, gotta get up at 4:30, right? Like, all the sports cliches you can think of,
Dude,
all teach you to just ignore what your body is telling you and just go and do it. I can't imagine this is going to be any different.
I mean, you make that comparison for the athletes. They even do that shit for Undisputed, right? Have you seen that fucking promo?
Yeah.
Where it's Shannon like getting ready early and Skip beats him in the office. It's like, come on, you you guys are getting in at 5 in the fucking morning for your goddamn daytime TV show. Give me a fucking break.
Bullshit.
You
Skip
fucking
Shannon's there
jokers.
10 minutes before the camera rolls. He don't give a shit.
With a blunt and a half bottle of Henny, fucking let's go. Like, let's do this morning show, baby. Let's see. Anything else you want to hit on this past week? I kind of the main interesting thing to me was like the rotation of some of these key players going out. Obviously that game there. As far as looking back on those games, obviously I guess a couple ones pop up. You know, nice overtime win there by KC. We had our little inner stream, and you know I don't think you're too surprised. I'm not.
I
too
hit the
surprised.
nail on the head, didn't I?
Yeah.
Like they'll be competitive for a half, maybe 3/4,
exactly,
and then the Niners will blow them out.
And
Falcons to a T.
Yeah, you know, like I think one of the games we were split on, Philly, all of a sudden again running the rock and really showing something against divisional opponent there against Washington. That was something nice. Obviously, the Green Bay Baltimore all of a sudden becoming an interesting game at the end.
Yeah.
I was about to stop watching that game, and then I just kind of stayed along, and then all of a sudden, Huntley and they rallied back real nicely there. Kind of blew up our pick on that one.
It's not Lamar Jackson coming back to do something there. Tyler Huntley, man, he showed some things.
Hey, you gotta say, as good as you could ever hope for someone just kind of coming in and just dropping him right into that situation for a team that is now on the outside looking in. Unfortunately, they did still take a loss there because they went for 2 yet again, and now on the outside looking in on the playoffs as far as tiebreakers and stuff are concerned. Obviously, you got 3 games to go. This is the stretch where they need to show it. So we'll see. They have they got a tricky one here coming up because another divisional opponent right around the corner, right? So.
And you got an undrafted guy who went to a really good college football school in Utah, right? He knows what he's doing back there. He's played in a system very similar to what the Ravens play. He runs the playbook very similar to how Lamar Jackson would run it.
Right.
This is so here's the thing. When you look at good organizations versus bad organizations, right? I think we could both agree the Ravens are at the very least you can consider them a good organization. They're run pretty well constantly, you know. When they're bad, they're not bad for forever. They find themselves back up there. When they're up there, they find a way to maintain it, right?
Sure.
What do you do with a backup quarterback, right? It sounds like such a meaningless position. Well, we have Lamar Jackson. Why should we stress so much about a backup quarterback?
Yeah.
Shit like this, right? You bring in a guy who I make the jokes about him being Diet Lamar Jackson, right? But that's kind of what he is. He can run the ball like Lamar Jackson can. He can pass the ball like Lamar Jackson can. Is he as explosive as Lamar Jackson? No, maybe not. But that's exactly what you want out of your backup. A guy who can come in and run your system like that. Nothing changes. Right? You run the exact same system with the exact same style with a guy who, he might not be as gifted as the guy ahead of him, but he can do everything that I need him to do.
Yeah, I mean, it's interesting. I mean, they absolutely have set that up to where they are going. Yeah. There's plenty of times where you have a backup come in and it's not going to be the same. That's what you've had in... that's what you have with Trey Lance backing up Jimmy Garoppolo. Yeah. That offense is going to look a lot different. The times when Trey Lance has played, the play calling is clear to that. It doesn't operate in that same way. But yeah, I think he's more or less done anything you could ask of him. It's obviously you're facing Green Bay, who has just been really on a tear and looking damn consistent as of late.
defense has become an interesting little issue for Green Bay, which I
Yeah,
don't think anybody would have
absolutely. That's
expected
true.
about 5 weeks ago.
That's
But
true.
their
They totally
defense is
flipped. Yeah.
starting to leak like nobody's business.
Yeah, I mean, that's what was happening though. Is their defense was winning them games in
Yeah.
that middle early, part of the season there, and then all of a sudden, yeah, offense. All right, it had started to get going, and eventually, because at one point, Rodgers was like middle of the pack as far as like his offensive numbers this season. He's now run out ahead, and his potential MVP candidate on the season at this point. So it's crazy how they have had to flip that switch, and they have really become a offensive only team because their defense is letting them down and their special teams is letting them down really bad too. So it's kind of a mess. It's a little bit in I guess how you would have expected it to be. So they're kind of returning a little bit to form. We'll see how if the defense could find themselves again like they were in the first half of the season, and in certain games here in the second half. I mean, no reason to think that team isn't going to be your number one seed, and probably right there in the NFC Championship. You got to imagine, right?
You would guess.
Right.
Obviously, I think the other game that stands out from last week, speaking of the number one seed in the NFC,
That's right.
The Detroit Lions
Let's go, Dan.
smashing
Dan
the Arizona
fucking Campbell,
Cardinals.
dude. Did you saw?
Okay, did
you saw the post, right? You saw him in the locker room.
How
obviously.
could you see that guy and not go, I would
Yeah,
run through a
let's
wall
fucking go,
for him.
dude. Let's go.
Right? That guy's awesome. I
Yeah.
love the Detroit Lions this year. I've said it all season. Listen, the reason why the 2-11-1 Detroit Lions feel way better than the Jacksonville Jaguars and the New York Jets is because that team plays their ass off. And if you get caught sleeping like the Cardinals did last week, they're gonna get you. Right?
I think you literally could put like, I'm thinking of like a middle of the road team within their division. How about the Minnesota Vikings? Give Dan Campbell the Minnesota Vikings roster right now.
They're a 10-win team.
They're a 10-win team. I think so too. That's exactly what I think.
Team.
They're a 10-win team.
No doubt.
Fire,
that
dude.
Lions team has
Get Zimmer
no
out of there,
talent.
Dan Campbell, and that team's winning games. Dalvin Cook.
That Lions team is devoid of talent. Let's be honest. Like, you look up and down that roster, like if you compare it to every other roster in the NFL, if it's not the worst, it's bottom 2 or 3. Right? There's nothing there. But that team plays their ass off. Right? Every drive they go out there thinking this is going to be the play that we change something. This is going to be the play that we make a difference. And that's why they're always in games. Everybody's out there playing as hard as they possibly can for 4 quarters. It doesn't matter what the score is on the scoreboard. They're going out there thinking we can make a difference. And they got a coach on the sideline who makes them believe that, hey, you can be the guy who makes the difference. Go out there and make that difference. And everybody's playing for him. Everybody believes in Dan Campbell. That team gets some talent on them next year. With Dan Campbell at the helm, they might be building a little something there. I'll be interested to see. Going into this offseason, going into next year, they're going to have a pretty decent draft pick. Probably not going to be number 1, actually. They're kind of playing themselves out of the top draft pick, but I don't think you care about that right now, right? When you're the Lions, you're trying to build a little bit of a culture here.
I think there's so much of this obsession with having that high draft pick, and it's like, how many guys have they are that 5, that 6. You find somebody that you could pretty much plug and play right into your team. And sometimes you're not so allured by the shiny, the quarterback or something like that. You really find someone in quality in there as far as your draft selections. But also, you see that stuff. You see how their guys are fired up. It's like, I don't know what their cap situation is like going into the next season. I can't imagine it's too bad.
They're pretty clean, except for Jared Goff. They're not paying a lot of money to anybody.
I can understand, like, it's still Detroit. You're not probably seen as any sort of real contender, but I mean, damn. I mean, shit. You're still making some money. Like, if you're gonna go for one of those teams that's gonna be really kind of competing out there, kind of in the middle of the road, why not for Dan Campbell? Like, that seems like a that stuff might actually get them some traction as far as the free agent market's concerned. So,
especially in a year like this where you look at the draft and there's probably three or four guys who all could there's no out and out number one, and none of them are in a particularly sexy position. Like there's no quarterback out there who's going to be the number one guy, right? It's a lot of edge rushers, a lot of offensive linemen at the top of the board. So you would imagine Kayvon Thibodeau does go number one, but there's a few options out there, right? So if you're in that situation, you're the Detroit Lions. You get Thibodeau, you get Hutchinson, you get a Konwu, you get Singletary. You're looking at that, or Stingley. You're looking at that. You go, we're doing fine, right? All these guys are going to help us. So right now for Detroit, I think that win over Arizona is way more important than the number one pick. They beat an elite NFL team clean. They ran them off the field. It didn't even look like a contest, right? You got these guys in the locker room out there looking at their coach going, I will kill someone for you. Give me the name and that guy's dead, right?
Yeah, here's the thing, and I think this is always going to be a little important because they absolutely, they got out early and they dominated. Like anytime that it even crept back a little bit, and they frustrated the hell out of Murray. Murray is still a young quarterback, and 100%. You could get to him. Like if you have that in mind, it's something that I think with a lot of those mobile quarterbacks, you're gonna have teams that you're able to just pick apart with that stuff. But Detroit didn't let that shit. Didn't allow that stuff to work. Like they played a great contained game. They really got to him. Disrupted a lot of passage, jumped some routes. Like really didn't let him get the easy stuff. And that was as impressive a win as you're gonna see against this Cardinals team, honestly, this year.
And I will say we give him a lot of shit, but Jared Goff playing one of the best games we've seen him play in years, right? Just doing exactly everything you could ask him to do in that game, right? Accurate, had a few deep shots, but didn't overdo it, right? Let Craig Reynolds really run the ball all over Arizona's defense, who looked like they could do nothing against them. And, did exactly what you'd ask them to do. Listen, that is as complete of a game you will see from a team that's 2-11-1. Right. You won't see a more complete game than that, right? And, again, how can you not look at this Detroit Lions team, look at what Dan Campbell's doing and go, you want to root for them.
Yeah.
You want to see them do well. I've never seen a more likable shit team maybe not never, but in a while. I can't think the last time I saw a shit team that was like, that team is just really likable. Well, I just want them to win all the time.
Yeah, it's the thing is, like, at one point it was looking really ugly. They've gone on this spree kind of within the last 6-7 games here.
One game in their last 5, or what? 2 games in their last 5, or whatever the heck it is. They got the tie with the Steelers, 2 wins in there. Like,
yeah. So like it was looking bad, and it was like, Jesus, oh man, the Dan Campbell experiment's going to start off winless. Like that's what it looked like midway through the season, just about, right? And you're like, how much is this rah-rah, like not rah-rah, but like, how much is that, player turned coach?
Yeah.
I've brought up Singletary multiple times with him. I like, just hopefully he doesn't turn into Singletary, because that was tragic. It's like you really were kind of rooting for Mike Singletary. You love some of the passion that he was bringing. He had a fire. He wanted to light that fire under his team. It seemed at points he was able to kind of get it going, but then it was like one game, and then they laid 5 garbage games after that. It's like everything was erased. Yeah. It doesn't, like, right now it's at least within this handful of games there. These last 5-6 games, right? You're talking about competitiveness, even when they've lost. Like they had one blowout, right, within those, and then otherwise kind of clean, right? Like close games. They had close losses earlier. We knew that too. They obviously, first game of the season, looks like they're gonna lose by like 4 tutties to the Niners, and then all of a sudden they rallied that game back. All of a sudden, it was just like it's cool to see some moxie from them, and you got to expect that as long as he's still putting the right people in place, I think you still need to have obviously you need the talent as far as your player base to do it.
Yeah.
I think you also have to look at the I think his coaching staff is filled with a lot of ex players too. It might be one of those things to where you don't let your affinity for ex players, that sort of thing, maybe prevent you from putting a better person in place. It's like right now, I think I wouldn't put the loss fully on him, and don't mean to really sidetrack it, but right now for the Niners we have D'Amico Ryans as our defensive coordinator, and I feel like in the second half of that game, D'Amico Ryans got picked apart by Vrabel or whoever's called the offensive plays for the Titans in that game. I feel like that was like just something clearly to where I don't know. You would just hope that they were able to start to adjust themselves. So I hope that they get the right people across the board, whether it's players, their coaching, staff, have the dedication to going forward like that.
Yeah, I do agree with you, but I will say I think in the major roles they have done a pretty decent job of bringing in people with coaching experience, right? Your offense coordinator is Anthony Lynn, obviously, former head coach in the NFL, has been an offensive coordinator for a long time. He's done a lot of good work as an offensive coordinator. Your defense coordinator is Aaron Glenn, who worked with Sean Payton for years as their secondary coach, right? He was Sean Payton's kind of go-to guy for that secondary. And you got Dom Capers in there as a defensive assistant, right? That's a guy who knows what he's doing as a coach. Right. So there are guys there who do know what they're doing as coaches. But I do agree with you, right? Obviously, the names on the coaching staff read like a mid-2000s Madden game team, right? You got Deuce Staley, Mark Brunell, Antoine Randall, right? You got just a lot of names that are familiar to you as a former player, but they're all in the skill position spots, which I think is actually a good thing.
Yeah, no, I do. Right? That's exactly. I think that's just it. It's like you could have certain guys, and obviously I think Vrabel's shown that in Tennessee that could do the head coaching thing, but I think that's just it. It's like, do I want to, Singletary? Yeah, absolutely. He could bring the fire, that sort of thing. But he was way fucking better as a linebacker coach. Who else do you want to learn how to play fucking linebacker from than Mike fucking Singletary? Like, so, like, yeah, I think that's the right move. You got to put those guys in. Let them use their expertise and what they did as a professional for years. That's exactly what these guys are trying to do, especially when you're talking at a place like Detroit, Those are guys that it's kind of a revolving door, right? How long are they going to be able to actually last in the league when you're on a bad team, right? You find yourself quickly out of the league, I feel like, when you're on those bad teams, right? Those lower guys on good teams will find a place on the bad teams, but those bad players or those lower players on bad teams will find themselves in the XFL.
I will say, I feel like the coaching staff, for the most part, has done a good job of getting what they can out of the little talent they have.
Yeah.
Right. You've seen, of course. You've seen the strides this year in Amon-Ra St. Brown, somebody who I was very hard on early in the season. Right. Came out of college with a lot of potential, and over the last few games has really shown improvements. Right. You look at what happened early in the season with the rookie running back. Oh my God, he gets hurt and I blank on his name. He was having a phenomenal year for them. Hold on. DeAndre Swift. Swift. You look at things like that and then you go, okay, well, would you really fire Deuce Staley with the season DeAndre Swift had? No, probably not, right? You look at that and go, Deuce is doing a good job there. Would you fire Antoine Randall looking at the improvement that Amon-Ra St. Brown has made over the course of that time? Probably not. I think the smartest thing Detroit can do is look at the buy-in of the players, compare it to the noticeable lack of talent there is on the roster, and go, this coaching staff is doing a decent job. Let's keep them together. Right, at least for the next little bit. Let's see if the buy-in thing continues. We add talent. Let's see if that starts to add to wins.
Yeah, and I'm trying to think, and I can't find his name right now. I'm trying to think. They've plugged in a guy recently. as far as a replacement kind of running back into that backfield, who's been doing very well. I think he came from like Division 3 or JUCO.
It's Craig Reynolds.
Thank you, Reynolds. Yeah, I don't know why I couldn't find that name as I was taking a look.
Yeah, from everybody's favorite college. I believe it's Kutztown or Kutztown or
there you go.
Something like that. I'd never heard of it before in my life until the game on Sunday.
But yeah, so they're finding stuff there. I don't know. Was there any other games you want to hit on from last week?
I think we've hit on the main ones.
I guess. Hey, I mean, I'll bring it up real quickly. Hey, dude, the fucking New Orleans Saints shutting the fuck Tampa Bay Buccaneers down.
It's a bye week for the Saints. The Saints play Tom Brady in Tampa Bay, and they get a win. Move on.
And I'll relay that into that. Did we not call that one fucking beautifully? We both hit that immediately as upon seeing it. Both of us, again, back-to-back weeks going positive, right? 8-7 for Craig here. 10-5, back-to-back 10 win weeks for your boy.
On fire.
But we go in, and let's just jump in. We'll go into this next week. We didn't get the ability to start this stream up before the game, but we all know where I was going for this game. So I almost feel like I should be taking San Francisco, even though I already know they lost. We all know I was taking San Francisco going this game. I feel honestly like you were taking San Francisco too.
I was going to take them too.
So we might not count this onto the official record, but we all know where we were both feeling on this one. We both definitely had the Niners here. Hell of a win from the Titans. But yeah, let's jump right into it for the rest of the week slate. Obviously, we got games on Saturday, we got games on Sunday, we got games on Monday. So a nice
probably have games on Tuesday.
Yeah, I mean exactly way things are getting pushed out, and yeah, I mean Houston's not trying to fucking play until Tuesday if they can avoid it. Although even though that still sucks.
They got 26 players on the list right now. They're going, can we get a stay of execution, please?
How many more players are going to get back in 2 days, though? That's the thing. They probably actually, you want to move it to Tuesday, but, at the same time, that's going to suck. Then you're on a short week into the next week toward the end of the season. I mean, these games are already worthless to them. It really kind of it's an unfortunate.
26 off a 52-man roster leaves you pretty thin for actually fielding a team.
Yeah, you're fucking decimated on a team again that already
sucks.
Yeah, what depth do you have?
Yeah.
Let's go right into it. So starting off, we're talking about we got 2 games here on Christmas Day. These will be the Saturday games. Early game. At 1:30, it looks like we got the Cleveland Browns going into Green Bay, face the Packers. Cleveland at 7-7, struggling. They are now finding themselves at the bottom of that crazy AFC North. Green Bay Packers 11-3, the class right now and number 1 seed in the NFC. Green Bay -7.5 at home for this one. I've gone. It's worked too well for me recently. I did all these, not even looking at any stats. I just pulled the trigger. Give me Green Bay at home.
I got Green Bay too.
Absolutely.
The only thing I needed for this one is that Cleveland's still missing 16 players on the COVID list.
Right.
They
get Baker.
I don't know.
Right? Is Baker back for this one, or are they going Big Nick?
He's still technically on the list. They think he might come off by game time on Saturday, but he is still on the list. There's actually quite a few guys who they're hoping to get back. Jarvis Landry's another one who's still on the list. They're hoping will come off. Malik McDowell, but they're still missing a ton of dudes who it sounds like a prayer right now for them. More so than any.
My heart goes out for former Niner Big Dick Nick Mullins, dude. Fucking so close to having that one. And they just drove it. Carlson with that dagger right at the end to take the win. He played actually generally a good game. Nobody
for a guy who literally walked off the street, wasn't on a roster or anything, hasn't been practicing with a team this year. Walks off the street, comes in, played about as good as you could have expected him to play.
I thought the Browns have had Mullins for a bit, actually.
He had been on their practice squad, and then they cut him, and then they re-signed him.
Okay, wow. Yeah, I could have swore he was at least practice squad. I'm surprised. I mean, I know with, obviously, I think the COVID rules, the practice squad eligibility kind of changed, because he's a few years now into his career.
Yeah, so practice squad eligibility for in case people maybe didn't know, for
Yeah.
this year, and probably for next year, you are allowed to put a player on the practice squad so long as they have under 5 years experience. Right.
There we go.
Once you hit 5 years, you're no longer allowed to. But because of the way this is working, you are allowed to put players on your practice squad so long as they have under 5 years experience. Nick Mullins previously would not have been practice squad eligible because of game time and previous experience, but rules state that he is allowed to be there.
Yeah.
And then they actually cut him completely off the practice squad a few weeks before.
Okay.
Brought him back when their whole quarterback room got destroyed. And now it sounds like they're going to keep him on as their backup. They like the way he played. He's going to be the backup on Saturday if Baker comes back off, and it sounds like they want to keep him on the roster. So good for Nick Mullins. He I thought he played as well as you could have asked him to play given the situation.
Yeah, and that was he got the full game right there. Seeing him previously, he comes very well off the bench. All of a sudden, like, if you need a guy that's still able to run your offense off the bench, he could do it. It's when he's getting to start after a start, he starts getting pretty exposed. And that's what it's been previously. I hope, they get put in a little bit better situation. Unfortunately, they did just lose their starting Pro Bowl center, essentially, in Treader. So not anything better for any of that situation for the Browns. They just lost another player to COVID, potentially. Obviously, you think of how this team needs to go. It's going to be behind the run game, and I know Nick Chubb didn't get so many touches. It seemed like through that previous game. I think they finally got him maybe a little bit of action in that second half, and then, but. I mean, yeah. As much as we're suspect of Green Bay's defense, I can't see a way in which on the other side Cleveland's able to get there. I mean, Myles Garrett, he didn't have his greatest game last week there. You wonder how well they're going to be able to play this Green Bay team that seems to be really hitting their upstride right now, right at the end of the season.
And I'm way more suspect of Cleveland's offense than I am of Green Bay's defense. Even with Nick Chubb, who has been running the ball really well and will continue to run the ball really well because he's a good running back. Baker's shoulder, honestly, this stay on the COVID list might have been the best thing for him. His shoulder had clearly not healed, right? Yeah. He was back. He was trying. There's part of me that hates Baker Mayfield because he's very in your face with very average talent, but I respect his compete, right? He plays hard, and he was going to go out there and do everything he could to help his team win games, despite the fact that he was still clearly fighting that shoulder. This could be a potentially good thing for him missing last game. That Cleveland offense is just it's not great, right? Yeah. They have pieces there that can be great. I love Jarvis Landry as a wide receiver. I think Peoples-Jones is a great complementary option to him. I mentioned you got Nick Chubb, right? Top 5 running back in the NFL right now. Yeah. There are pieces there, but ultimately it never feels like they ever connect at the right time for Cleveland. Green Bay's defense has been bad recently, but I'm not as bad as I think the Browns' offense has been. So I think this ends up being pretty ugly by the end of the game.
Yeah, and they'll be on the road. Green Bay. It's gonna be it'll be loud in there for Cleveland. Yeah. So we'll see how Ohio travels out, and but yeah, you gotta expect that it just makes too much sense for Green Bay to kind of take advantage of a depleted Browns roster here. -7.5. It's a pretty big spread, but I mean, if you feel like Green Bay is going to win this game, then winning by 10 more isn't that much of a stretch, I feel. So, no. Keep it going into the. I think this is. I mean, what a fucking game to have.
My game of the week.
Christmas night, I think this is game of the week as well.
Game of the week.
Changed a little bit because that Tennessee win. I honestly thought, kind of going into this was going to be a Tennessee loss, and this was going to be very big as far as division. I believe Tennessee does have the tiebreaker, won both their games against Indy, so maybe a little less into that. But obviously, Indy still going for a playoff spot. Indianapolis Colts at 8-6 going into the Arizona Cardinals den at 10-4. Arizona just getting -1 here at home. Obviously, the Colts, they've been on their a pretty good tear here, looking pretty damn good, been able to run the ball pretty effectively. Arizona, obviously, coming off of a incredibly surprising loss.
Absolute
to Detroit.
Kicking.
Not just a loss to a team like that, which would already be disappointing, but literally one in which they were never able to really get more than minor traction in that game. Like literally every time they made a little bit up, the door was slammed.
They got thoroughly beaten in that game. They got beat offensively. They got beat defensively. They lost on every side of the ball.
So, what do you think for this game, Craig? Do they
maybe Indianapolis?
Indy, and I like it too. I'm sticking with the Colts myself. I've been a little hot the Colts this whole season. I feel like they're a team that's really making the push right when they need it.
Yeah.
They really want to make these playoffs. I think they have all the ability to. And on the road, I think, they will shock it. And I picked the Colts as well.
The Cardinals just let Craig Reynolds run for 130 on them. What the hell is Jonathan Taylor about to do? Right?
Right.
Jonathan Taylor just ran for $170 against a run defense that isn't awful, right? It's obviously not the Patriots' strength, but it's been good. Their run defense, if you look at the yardage now, it looks so much worse because they just gave up almost 200 to Jonathan Taylor, right?
Right.
Jonathan Taylor is about to come into an Arizona team whose run defense recently has been suspect to say the least, and just gave up 130 yards to a D2 player.
Do you think Carson Wentz passes the ball more than 13 times this game?
I think if he does, it's a joke.
Really? You think he's going to pass it 13 times again? Do you think they'll be able to run that kind of offense?
I don't think he'll need to. Legitimately, Jonathan Taylor is that good right now. And this Cardinals run defense
this is a runaway for you, huh?
Let me put it to you this way.
Give me a point spread right now. If you give me an alternate point spread right now. This game is a -1 in the Cardinals' favor.
Colts -5.
Colts -5. Okay,
it's the only place I start to consider the Cardinals.
I'm marking this down right now. So basically, you're giving 6 points to the other side.
Yeah, that's the only time I consider the Cardinals.
You win that. I'm giving you 6 subs. All right.
I legitimately, I was trying to think of like a score line for this game. The numbers that were coming up in my head were like 33-10, 33-17. Like I could see this game getting ugly. It's one of those matchups where you have a strength of a good team versus the weakness of a good team. And you see that strength as so visible. And it's the Arizona Cardinals in a late season game. I know
oh, damn.
I know old topics.
Is that called out Cliff? Is that called out Murray?
I don't know what it is, but they've done the same thing now for the last couple seasons, right? Get to the late part of the season, and Arizona's gonna.
They are the Raiders of the NFC in that regard. They just kind of fall apart there in the second, don't they?
I could see this being ugly. I think the Colts win this probably by a touchdown or more.
Damn. All right, so I got to mark down the +5 Craig alternate spread here. Craig hits that. He's getting 6 gifted from me. All right. I like it. I like the boldness. I feel like Indy's going to take this as well. I'm not quite as bold on that. I think Arizona still has a bunch of talent all over the field.
100%.
And so you always, it's just like, hey, take a look at the just the raw stats. It's like, oh man, I mean, I know they just got their ass busted by Detroit, but that is a team that in all those games prior, is top 5 in points against, top 10 in yards against, top 10 sacks against, or sacks for obviously the offense goes. But Colts, honestly, like they are and I think we could touch. Why not touch upon this now? Because it's kind of an interesting point. I think that we have a little bit of a shift as far as I think how offensive games can be played. I think a team like the Colts exists due to how defenses have altered themselves. Obviously, rule changes and that sort of thing have made this much more of an offensive favored game, especially as far as passing is concerned. Whether it's quarterback protection, pass interference calling, and that sort of thing.
Yeah, we mentioned it earlier. Offensive pass interference just isn't a thing anymore.
It's just so many things are stacked in the offensive favor, especially when you go to the air. And defense have had to build around that. Teams don't really, they have a base defense, but everybody plays nickel most of the time.
Yeah.
You got to put an extra DB back there because they're throwing 3 wide receivers at you. You got to have a nickel corner. Every team has to have a nickel corner, whether it's and sometimes that could be your best corner on the field, honestly, is that nickel corner that's playing the slot, right? I think Kawon Williams might be a great example of that for the Niners, right? We've kind of raved about him before. You're seeing it, though. Okay, you're going to run nickel defenses against me? I'm going to run the ball down your throat. The Niners have done it. The Colts have done it. The Tennessee Titans obviously have previously done it. And they were kind of I think that's a surprising thing. Obviously, Henry has gone out. You have been able to supplement some other guys in there like Foreman and McNichols to get a little something going there. The running game's really kind of back in vogue for offenses, right?
I think part of that too. I wanted to pull up the exact numbers on this, by the way.
Yeah.
Because one of the top linebackers in this class, Nakobe Dean from Georgia, I love him, by the way, he's an absolute beast, is 5'11", 205 at linebacker. Now, this guy plays like
a DB.
This guy,
wow.
He plays like he plays like a pit bull, right? And you love to see the ferocity and stuff like that. But
what's he gonna do when a 300-pound fucking lineman comes out on a sweep?
But this is my point, right?
Yeah.
I think this comes with the way the game's played now, where you want linebackers who are essentially your fifth, sixth cornerback, right?
Yeah.
When they're on the field, you got a bunch of guys now who come out in the draft, and you look at them and they play linebacker, right? Guys like Simmons, for example, they play linebacker, but they're not a real linebacker; they're a cover guy, right? So you got all these linebackers who come out now who play linebacker, but again, essentially are there as cover guys, and then you put them face to face with guys like Henry, with guys like Jonathan Taylor, with guys like Nick Chubb, and what do you do against that, right? That matchup's bad, and I think you're starting to see more and more teams look to go back to the power run game, especially teams that have the running backs to do it, right? And you look at how bad the Titans offense has looked without Derrick Henry there, right? The Colts would be the same thing without Jonathan Taylor, right? These are teams that rely on the run game, and you can do that because of the way defenses have shifted, right? And this is only going to get more and more pronounced, I believe, as we go on. I think we are starting to see a shift in the importance of the running back position. You look at the teams who are in playoff spots right now, most of them can run the ball pretty damn well, right? The Patriots, obviously, Damian Harris, Ramondre Stevenson have been a great running back tandem for them. The Ravens do it a little bit differently than we're talking about, but they run the ball more than almost any other team, right? The Titans and Colts we've mentioned. You look in the NFC, you got Ezekiel Elliott, obviously, with the Cowboys. He's had a bit of an up and down year, but they also have Tony Pollard. They have two running backs who do that. And
almost to your point, I think a team that's really fallen off in the AFC, the Buffalo Bills, they for some reason aren't handing it to Singletary in times where I feel like they should be handing it to him and kind of leaving him more into Allen's hands to throw the ball. And I think it's been to their detriment. I mean, you obviously looked at that Patriots game, that friggin' tornado that they were having to play in. It's like, how the hell are you not just hand the rock to Singletary a little bit more and doing kind of the same thing that the Patriots are doing to you, but you should be able to do it to a pretty effective in a pretty effective way because you have such a mobile quarterback that you have the ability to do like the run option.
Yeah. No, we even mentioned the Cardinals, right? With Murray and James Conner. They're on the ball a lot too, right? I think there's more than one way to run the ball, just like there's more than one way to pass the ball, right? If you looked at the Chiefs pass offense and the Packers pass offense, they're different pass offenses, even though they pass the ball very heavily, right? The Packers, you got guys like Lazard, Valdez-Scantling, you're going big play every time, whereas with the Chiefs, yeah, you got Tyreek Hill who can burn, but a lot of your plays are going to Travis Kelce, right? And they're going over the middle for 5-10 yards, and you're letting Kelce rumble down the field, right? Same style of offense, which is pass heavy, different ways of executing it. Running the ball is very similar. Right. I think if you even looked at Derrick Henry and Jonathan Taylor, you would say they're different running backs. They do a lot of things similarly, but I don't think you would call 10 to 15 inside zones for Jonathan Taylor like you do for Derrick Henry.
Right.
Right. Jonathan Taylor, you want him to get in the open field because he's so elusive. He just makes guys miss. He doesn't go down easily, not because he's so hard to tackle, but because guys just can't touch him. Right?
Yeah.
The evolution of the run game in the NFL right now and what we're seeing more and more of, especially now with Jonathan Taylor being in the MVP conversation, right, is because of the downsizing of defense to match the pass game. I do think correlation is there for sure.
Yeah, and you know, just kind of to that point, just the way that these defenses and schemes are kind of built around. Yeah, you have to be able to bring a pass rush and defend the pass, and it's just like it's just been going in that trend. It just makes sense, honestly. It's just like, yeah, all right, you start only putting 6 in the box. I am going to run this ball, whether it's in sweeps and, yeah, exactly, in different ways. You can run it right down their throat, right down the middle, if you have that kind of, the players built for that. But, yeah, you also get those guys out in space. You get a couple good blocking wide receivers. Those sweeps, yeah, that's big yardage, obviously. So it's all the adjustment, and I think that's honestly one thing. I think tight ends have become a lot more capable of working within the pass offense and being able to catch balls. But on the flip side, I think every team should have, it's probably the third or fourth guy on your depth chart, but a run blocking wide receiver. It's so big for some of those guys.
I think every team should be carrying 2 tight ends who are radically different. One who is your pass-catching offensive tight end,
sure,
and one who's your blocking tight end.
I agree with that.
Right? I look at Atlanta, for example, who, granted, having a rough year, but one thing that they've done really well is you got Kyle Pitts, who's your guy who you get him in space, you pass him the ball, and then you got Hayden Hurst, who Hayden Hurst's job isn't to catch 5-10 passes a game. If Hayden Hurst is catching a bunch of passes in your game, probably not doing well. Everybody else is probably covered. What Hayden Hurst is out there to do is be 6'5", 260 pounds, run through dudes, and let Cordell Patterson find space behind him, right?
Yeah.
I think every team should look at that and go, we should try to do that, right? You should try to have a tight end who can help you in the passing game and a tight end who can help you in the running game. And some teams, you can have that guy who is both, right?
Well, yeah.
George Kittle is no slouch when it comes to blocking guys in the run game.
And honestly, Kyle Juszczyk, who they get to call a fullback and pay a whole shitload less because he's a fullback, and basically he's played like a tight end. And wasn't that a heartbreaker when he's out there on that nice little kind of semi-wheel route up on the right side? Jimmy misses them by like 2 yards. That's a tutty. That was kind of that was 17-0, I believe, right there, or 14-0 maybe at that point.
And we've talked about the Patriots with their run game this year, and you mentioned fullback James Devlin, similar thing, right? James Devlin's that guy for the Patriots, and that's another position that I've thought about in the past, because we've mentioned the run game before, and how with defenses getting smaller, we might see more and more run games like this, and it is starting to come to light a little bit. I wonder if we might see a bit of a revival of the fullback position, right? If we might see more teams take those blocking tight ends that they have, who are designed to be blockers, and just train them back up in that fullback position, right? And really, we might get some more, strong eyes. Some.
Yeah, I think it's kind of interesting, because I think the economy of it is the thing to look into, and even a second string tight end is probably going to be paid better than a first string fullback, right?
Oh, absolutely.
So, like, it's just that. It's like, what do you want to be designated as? I'd rather be a fucking tight end. You're going to pay me more. I think it literally just comes to that, because I think, yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, you have a guy that has the ability to block. Yeah, if you're able to just set him back into the fullback's position, that sort of thing. I think it's the opposite way with Juice and the couple fullbacks that still exist in the league. I suppose they're not really necessarily going so much up into that tight end spot, but still, like, that's what you have with the Niners. You have Kittle, you have Juice. These are guys that can block. Yep. These are guys that can catch. And every now and then, hell, I mean, they've ran them both. I mean, previous game before this one, Juice had a nice carry. Kittle, they've tried to get in little tight end sweeps and stuff like that. Yeah. So, even utilized in that regard too, because they're big bodies and you wanted to get their ball in their hand. It'd been interesting if they tried to do that sort of thing in this game. Honestly, that was kind of, yeah. I don't want to keep harping on the Niners game, but it just friggin' happened.
No, it just happened.
It's just amazing that, I don't know, it's just like some of that innovation and stuff in the offense just falls off. It's like, I understand you have set plays, and so you have your first 15, right, for Shanahan, and he probably has that set, but it's like, that shit worked so goddamn well. We had a 9-play drive to open up the goddamn game that got us a tutty.
Yeah.
Go back to the well one time, like, that shit worked. Like, come on. Like, it drive me nuts. But let's keep going. I know I kind of took this on a sidetrack to talk about the running game there.
It's a good track to talk about, especially when we're talking about the Colts.
Exactly. And with probably the only non-quarterback and maybe the outlier defensive player that it could even be mentioned in the MVP conversation. Jonathan Taylor.
I think we're getting to the point where Jonathan Taylor is more than can be mentioned in the MVP conversation.
I mean, he's there. He's long shot, though. Like, how is he going to get it? He's going to be Offensive Player of the Year, I feel. I don't know how he gets MVP.
If the Colts, like, let's say hypothetically, the Colts do win out, Titans drop another game.
They got this. Okay.
They win the division, right? With Jonathan Taylor essentially being their offense. Let's be honest. Carson Wentz has been good, but without Jonathan Taylor, this team's nowhere close to the playoffs.
Right. I mean, yeah. You'd be expecting Hines or something to do it, right? And he's a great change of pace back, but he is not the guy that
not going to do what Jonathan Taylor's done.
Precisely. I gotta agree with that. Let's keep it moving, though. I mean, here's one. We've spent a good 15 minutes on a 2-win team in the Detroit Lions. Detroit Lions are going in to Georgia, into Atlanta, face the Falcons here. Detroit 2-11-1. Atlanta 6-8, still hanging on. Very, very slightly, but still hanging on there to a potential playoff spot there. This is going to be I mean, everybody's going to love Detroit, I think, just because they just won a big game.
They've actually looked good in recent weeks.
Atlanta just came off an absolute stinker.
Have not looked good in recent weeks.
Atlanta actually showing as the second worst defense as far as points against. Worse when it comes to getting to the quarterback. There's so many things that are working in, oddly enough, for a 2-win team in Detroit's favor for this game. What are you thinking as a Falcon fan, my friend?
Hey, do you want to know your fun fact of the day? I don't know if you know this one or not.
That's
Atlanta
amazing.
has not won a home game yet this year. They are 0-5 at
No
home this year.
way. Oh
Yep.
my God, that's worse than the fucking Niners have been. We've been bad at home this
Uh,
year.
we are 0-5 both straight up and against the spread at home this year.
Jesus.
Um,
Mercedes-Benz Stadium not been treating you well.
it's a great stadium.
It's great. It's
I
great.
haven't been. I haven't been. I wish, right? But obviously, stuff has happened in the
Yeah.
world that has meant that I can't really travel across the border.
Right.
Always been a dream of mine to go to Mercedes-Benz since they opened it. It's a beautiful looking stadium. I love what they've done with like the concessions and stuff like that. Again, another story for those who don't know.
Hmm.
The They have the lowest concession prices in North America. A hot
That
dog
is right.
there
Yeah.
takes you out $2, right? Like
Pretty glorious.
it's fantastic. I love what they've done with it. The owners of the Falcons are from the Atlanta area. They recognize that, in general, Atlanta's a lower income city, and it's a way for them to try to get more people out to the games, is to make it more affordable. Smart move. It's paid dividends for them. It's worked gangbusters. The Falcons, the MLS team too.
Yeah.
They sell out that place like crazy. Falcons can't play there. I don't know what it is. I don't know if somebody put a voodoo curse on Mercedes-Benz Stadium. I don't know if the ghost of owners past have come up and gone, how dare you lower prices? I don't know what happened. They cannot play there. This game just feels like such a bad game for the Falcons that I almost
Right.
want to take the Falcons.
It would go in theme with how this entire season has worked.
That's my thought,
Everything
right?
that you expect,
Nothing makes sense.
none of it.
Everything is confusing.
That's right.
Give me the Falcons. Screw
Oh,
it.
he's
I'm
gonna
gonna
do
be a
it.
fan
He's
this week.
gonna do it.
I'm gonna be a fan this week. I think the Falcons are gonna come out, defy all odds. They're gonna look at the situation ahead of them and go, "We have a shot at the playoffs.
Craig going.
Let's do it."
I love to see it. Craig going full homer finally as the ultimate homer of this pod. I love to see it. Give me Detroit on that.
Yeah, no,
5.5
that's the smart
point
pick.
spread.
That's
I'm
the
taking
smart
Detroit. But no, I like. See, the thing is, it's just this is just the game though. Like,
Yeah.
Detroit's feeling good.
Oh yeah.
They're also a fucking 2-win team. There's a reason for that. Atlanta has won 6 games through the season, yet they haven't won one at home. You could argue they're kind of fucking due, aren't they? Like, they got to be able to pick up one against not a division, but a conference rival-ish, and one that you look on paper and it's like, we should beat this team. We should beat this team by a touchdown or more. So I kind of I don't hate the Atlanta pick, honestly. Like, everything is working in the way that you feel like, oh, Detroit but none of that's worked that way this season. And I'll take Detroit because I am kind of gonna go with that momentum, ride the wave. I feel like this one's honestly gonna bite me in the ass. I'm gonna be honest.
Everything feels like a Detroit win here. I will say, I know what you're saying about the 2-win team versus the 6-win team. I am more impressed with Detroit's 2 wins than Atlanta's 6. Atlanta has
Really?
not beaten a team this year that is over 500. And as
Yeah.
a matter of fact, they've beaten 3 teams this year that have a combined 6 wins. 7 wins. If
Yeah.
I'm doing my math right. 7 wins
But-
in the Jaguars.
But this is the exact kind of team they've beaten. Is a 2-win team. They have when a team is clearly like they're right there in that lower middle, right? But when they have someone that's clearly been lower, they have been able to like, all right, no, we're not gonna let them. This kind of lines up to a game that they
does.
should be able to win.
I would still argue I'm more impressed by the Lions than the Giants,
give you
Jets, and Jaguars, right? Like, the Lions, to me, strike me as a better team than all of those teams I mentioned. That's 3 of the Falcons' 6 wins.
Yeah,
They played the Dolphins before the Dolphins figured out how to play football again,
sure.
right? Like, You look at a lot of their wins, and it's they beat the Cam Newton Panthers, right? Like a lot of these wins, you look at them and you go,
Yeah.
"Oh, that's why they've got 6 wins." They haven't won a home game yet. They're just not a good team, right? I think the 6 wins is because I believe coming into the season the Falcons had the worst strength of schedule. I haven't seen an update of strength of schedule with games played. I'd imagine it's still true.
I gotta imagine that. Yeah, given what you just said right there, it's like yeah, probably.
They've played a piss poor schedule full of easy games. It's gotten them to 6 wins. The Lions have actually played a pretty tough schedule. They've played some tough teams to really close games. That impresses me more. Right? You beat the Jaguars. Congratulations. I'm more impressed by the Lions.
You can still take the Lions if you want. You're talking yourself so out of taking
No,
the
no,
right
I'm taking
now.
the Falcons.
Right.
I'm telling you, this is the game in the bizarro world NFL that we live in this year.
If there's a season to take,
nothing makes sense.
Yeah.
Everything is the flip of a coin. This is the game the Falcons win.
Yeah. I can see it. I can see it. Yeah, minus 5.5. It is a point spread too, into which like I feel like Detroit has kept these games close, but yeah, Atlanta could. They have like had a couple games this season where their offensive has put it up, and you wonder if Detroit would be able to hang with that if it happened. We'll see. But that is the first game, actually. That is the day after Christmas. That is first game on the list there, and we'll keep it moving on this. Hell of a game between a couple AFC North rivals at the same position right now, really fighting for a playoff spot. We got the Baltimore Ravens at 8-6 going in to face the Cincinnati Bengals. Bengals at 8-6 as well, and getting -3 here at home. Bengals, obviously, they have been having to deal with not having Lamar Jackson out there. We talked about Huntley quite a bit and how he's stepped in pretty nicely. Joe Burrow and the Bengals have had some very kind of up and down moments. Joe Mixon has kind of like disappeared for games, oddly enough, for him. So it's been a very interesting season for both of them. I think the Bengals have had some losses they'll look back at, and they'll really be kicking themselves for how badly they got taken out a couple of these losses. Ravens, though, are coming off of 3 straight losses here. Unfortunately, as much as we talk positively about Huntley there, they haven't been able to convert those into wins. Right now, I got Cincy at home here, purely based on that. I think a little bit more. They showed a little bit more life in their games. They obviously kept it very close and took it to overtime and had the ability to win that game against the Niners. Chargers was a stinker. And an ugly win, but they got it against Denver on the road there. So I feel just a little bit better about Cincy right now.
Yeah. It's a tough one, right?
Yeah, it is.
This to me is the clearest buy-up game I've ever seen in my life. Right, regardless of who you're taking. Right, if you're taking Cincinnati, buy up, gain your extra half point so that a field goal you win outright, you don't push. Right, if you're taking Baltimore, buy up, give yourself the extra leverage in case since he does win by that field goal, you still win.
Are we getting actual betting advice here? What is this?
Buying up is not usually something that's actually feasible in betting, right? Because there's not usually many lines where buying up actually makes a lot of sense. This is one of those lines.
This is a beautiful...
Right.
Yeah.
This is a buy-up line if I've ever seen one. Give yourself a little bit of leeway here because this is going to be a tight one. I don't think this is going to be a blowout one way or the other.
No.
This is going to be a very important game to that AFC North. It's going to go down to the wire. Baltimore hasn't lost 4 games in a row since 2016. They don't go on big losing streaks.
Right.
But I'm kind of with you. I like the Bengals in this one. I feel like Baltimore right now feels like they're in a bit of a tailspin, and they're trying to do whatever they can to stop it. And I respect, going for 2-point conversion, try to get yourself that win, do whatever you can to kind of get out of the situation you're in, but it does feel like it's starting to go downhill quick.
question: did you hear about, or did you listen to the
I did listen
dialogue?
to the audio,
So
yeah.
that was like, it bites you in the ass, right? And you end up taking an L. That's all anybody will see at the end of the day, right? But you gotta appreciate that you got guys like you're talking to your second string quarterback. You're letting Mark Andrews jump in there. The feeling was to go for that, and
Yeah.
I
That was a
don't.
team decision, right? And
I don't love the play call, honestly.
that was my issue with
You gotta give him 2 routes. Like that seemed like it's just purely an out route to Huntley, or to Andrews.
yeah.
And I know you have a lot of reliability in that, but like it's like if Jimmy G only had a route out to Kittle, you know they're fucking going after Kittle. Like it just like in the end zone, like that sort of thing. It's just like give him a backside something to work off of. He probably still would have thrown it to Andrews, but the fact that it was just literally just that route that he had to go to, I kind of don't love that play call for him.
Even get Hollywood Brown running a short in or something like that, right? Just something to give the defense something else to look at.
Right.
Right? I'm with you on that. And on top of that, I don't think that's the route I would have gotten Mark Andrews to run. Do you not see how big Mark Andrews is and how tough he is to defend?
I think
what
inside,
I'm doing is I'm lining him up right at the end of that line, right on the tight end spot.
Right.
I'm snapping the ball. He runs 2 yards deep into the end zone, and he hooks back, and he just uses that big body. We've talked about it. Offensive pass interference, man. It's not a thing. Box the dude out behind you, cut in front of him, hit him in the chest.
Little slant curl, something like that. Get yourself into the space. Let your quarterback dart a ball. See if they get their hands in there. If they do, they do. But like I think that gives you the best chance. At the same time, big ups to as far as really stepping up. Like everything's slipping away from Green Bay. They had done nothing but give up a pretty easy win. It looked like at one point to Baltimore, and no, it's like. Oh, they're going to go for 2 right now? All right. Hey, everything they've done to this point, if we just do it right here, game. And they did it. So up to them, up to Green Bay for a defense that, we kind of, I don't know if necessarily trashed, but just kind of call it as it is. They haven't been playing up to, I think, their standard. Stepped up right then. So
they did.
Good on them. But yeah, both of us on Cincy on that one, it sounds like.
Both of us on Cincy. But like I said, if you are listening to this and you do want to make a bet on this, buy up. Get yourself that extra half point.
I love it.
Most sites, no matter where you're betting, it's only going to cost you an extra 50 cents to $1. And honestly, for a game like this, especially if it's in a parlay, it's going to make a big difference.
I love we're getting the additional betting advice. We're gonna start really getting to that. I wish I could actually do some of these sports bets. Unfortunately, can't do it in my region as far as.
And sports betting's legal in Canada, but 90% of sportsbooks won't let Canadians actually use their site. Like I can't use DraftKings or FanDuel sportsbooks. I can only use the fantasy sites.
Damn. Same.
But like it's legal. Like I can.
What the hell? Like
they just won't let me.
That's whack. All right. Let's see here. Let's go. Let's keep it moving here down the line. A lot of games actually covered this week, so let's keep moving. Great one here. There's a great NFC battle. You talk about playoff spots, positioning. The Los Angeles Rams going into Minnesota to face off against the Vikings. LA coming in at 10-4. The Vikings standing at 7-7. LA getting -3.5 on the road here coming into Minnesota. Obviously coming off a nice win against division rival in the Cardinals there, and are actually looking kind of nice potentially to overtake a NFC West division lead spot there from the Cardinals. I know they'll be looking out for that. Minnesota fighting, trying to scrap in there. I think they're right now on the outside looking in, or they are on that. No, they are on that seventh spot right now. Obviously, They have Philly. They got New Orleans right there at the 7-7 record as well. So a lot on the line for this game right now. Both teams want to get it, whether it's positioning or even making it to the playoffs. You got to feel pretty good about the Rams right now, just based on the fact that, just kind of another week of them gelling. Obviously, coming off of a big win right there. Minnesota has been. They have picked up a couple wins. Obviously, because they lost to Detroit. And so you can't help but not look back to that game. But yeah, have come off of 2 straight wins here. LA coming off of 3 straight wins. And actually their latest win was against Seattle. Sorry, not against Arizona. Arizona was a couple weeks ago.
This is an easy one for me. I'm taking the Rams.
Yeah, same here.
The Rams look like they're back to the form we saw at the beginning of the season, right?
Yeah.
And we said it when they made all those trades. It's probably going to take a few weeks for everybody to gel back together to get to know each other. Right. They then lose Robert Woods right away, right? Which makes it even harder for them.
Have we brought any number 2 receiver being out more than Robert Woods? Because it seems like he is such a key piece.
Is there a better number 2 receiver in the league than Robert Woods?
Probably not. Probably not. I mean, you might have some more maybe athletically gifted number 2s that you would slot in there, but as far as what worked for what that team does, Robert Woods helps make that team go like it likes to go.
Yeah, look at Cooper Kupp's production those first couple weeks without Robert Woods. That's all you need to know about how important Robert Woods is, right? He frees up a lot of things for that offense. What the Rams have been able to do recently in their successes is work in Odell Beckham Jr., right? He's starting to look a little bit closer to the OBJ we saw in the Giants. He's not that guy anymore, and I don't think he's ever going to be that guy again. But he looks like a threat out there. He's dynamic. He's finding holes. He's making plays. And again, that you get that guy there, and all of a sudden Cooper Kupp opens back up, and that's a problem. On top of that, Minnesota's not going to have Dalvin Cook. Uh-oh.
Oh.
He's got the Rona-chan. He is out.
Oh, I did not know this.
Yeah.
When was that
Madison
announced
and
today?
Thielen are back. Cook today got placed on the list.
Oh, shit.
So
that's crazy. Huh.
I mean, the Vikings are a team that when Dalvin Cook's playing well, they play well. When he's not, they don't. And he's not going to be there. We've talked about Kirk Cousins ad nauseum on here. He is what he is. He's okay. Right? But I don't think they got enough without Dalvin Cook to beat the Rams or even to cover this spread.
Yeah, I mean, that's quite surprising. I know Cook was on the McAfee show on Tuesday, I believe, and he was isolated in like a locker room. He looked just fine for the most part. So, how quickly the tables turned in a couple days there. Yeah, that's quite surprising. I think. I mean, I was on the Rams already. They're looking like they're hitting their stride right now. They want to take that division. This is just a week to do it.
And you and me both think that they're going to see an opportunity here too, right?
Yeah,
they'll know the result of that Arizona-Indianapolis game before this game's played.
Right.
And if we are both correct, they'll know that if they win, they'll be first place in that division.
Yeah.
So they're probably looking. They're going to go into this game licking their chops, going, "Here we go. This is our time." Minnesota. Here's the thing. The craziest thing about this is I think Minnesota loses this game and still has just as good a shot at making that 7 seed as before. I still stand by what I said week 1 of this podcast. I still think that 7 seed probably going to go to an under 500 team.
Yeah, I mean, you did call it. I was not. I figured we'd at least get an 800 team there. But everything's lining up really for a.
I think 8 and 9 gets you in.
Like that's crazy. I mean, I don't think that was necessarily what was expected when the playoffs got opened up a little bit more. Obviously, this game is as this season has opened up a lot more of these teams, and the way it's shaken out, it's just like, yeah, you're going to have a lot of these teams in the middle of the road. It's going to be a slugfest. 6 and 8 teams still having a chance right now.
Yep.
This point in the season is realistic, and Minnesota, I mean, they do got them at home. Yeah, not having Cook, I think Henderson, I want to say their backup, he actually had some nice spark to him when I saw him running the times I have, but it's like, yeah, he's not Dalvin Cook. So that's going to be tough. That's very surprising. I wonder if that line's actually going to change, because right now I had it still at the at plus 3.5 for Minnesota. I don't think that line changed at all. So very surprising there.
Madison would be their second running back.
Madison, okay, Harrison.
And they also have rookie Kine Nwangu, who's ran the ball pretty well for them this season. But again, none of them are Dalvin Cook.
No.
Right. It's that simple.
Let's keep it moving right here into another great matchup, and this one going to be a big, obviously, as far as the AFC East is concerned. The two top dogs right here, and Miami sniffing right below. Who knows what could happen right there as well. The Buffalo Bills going into New England to face off against the Patriots. Obviously, this was the game a couple weeks ago. The tornado run-a-thon game that was very interesting as far as how the two teams played it. Buffalo still decided to sling the ball. Mac Jones handed that rock off and threw the ball only 3 times. Patriots ended up getting the win. Coming into this game, Patriots just coming off that loss against the Colts. Mac Jones throwing a couple picks in that game, not looking quite his usual self. Buffalo Bills finally getting a win after a couple straight losses against New England, as we mentioned before, and the Bucs. So a couple strong teams there. This was one I had said when right before the Buffalo Bills and hosted the Patriots here, that I thought the Bills win that game, the Patriots win this game. I got to kind of stick to it, even though the Patriots won the first game. I still feel like at home, things will be firing. They just took a loss. I don't think they're going to take that lightly. And I don't know if the Bills quite have it the same way they have before. At minus 2.5 points for New England, give me the Patriots.
Boston. At time of kickoff.
Yes.
Is going to be a balmy 30 degrees Fahrenheit.
All right.
Freezing rain and 15-mile-an-hour winds.
Okay, so not as much of a tornado, but cold as shit. No one wants to fucking catch the ball, and it's going to be raining. So
freezing rain.
What's the over? Okay, over under. Mac Jones, 10 passes.
Under.
You really think they're going to do the same damn thing?
Why not? Why wouldn't you? The weather's going to be...
Because it's too predictable, I guess. Like, there's no way you do the same thing. The weather's going to
be almost a carbon copy, right? A little less windy, a little less cold, a little more wetness. To me, this game plays out almost like a carbon copy of the first one. It's going to be ugly. It's going to be raining. It's going to be windy. New England's not going to throw the ball much. They're going to win the game.
Do you not think Buffalo makes an adjustment?
They can't. Like, unfortunately, I don't believe Buffalo can make an adjustment, right?
Just no belief in Devin Singletary?
None whatsoever.
Damn, really?
I actually like Devin Singletary. My issue is that they don't believe in Devin Singletary, right?
Okay.
If they had faith in Devin Singletary to run the ball, they would have done it in the first game. Right? When the passing game was clearly not working for them. And they didn't. I don't have any reason to believe that they're going to look at the weather this time and go, oh, well, this is clearly less producive to a passing game.
This is going to be interesting. I honestly, I think Mac Jones is going to throw it more than 10 times. I take the over on that. The only reason for that is because, okay, that's what's been announced. We'll see how that game, how it develops as it goes through, and how bad the weather is continuously through it. I think that's a little bit of a factor. But
Yeah.
I just can't imagine that they won't come out predictable, right? So I feel like there's going to be some wrinkles in there for the Patriots offense. I took them, so I feel like they'll still get the win here. I feel like this will be like a little bit more of both teams will play similar. Like, it was such a diverse offensive game for both teams, the last one. And that was weird because it was the exact game in which it should be a lot more similar. They should have both been running the rock. Coaching wise, yeah, there wasn't a belief in Singletary to get the rock. I don't see necessarily why not. It's not like you haven't been handing him a rock a decent amount this year. Anyways, he still has you're still getting him carries in a typical game. I just don't see how the Buffalo Bills right now, with honestly the way that they are, their offense in general is running. I don't like how they have seemingly gone away from that, and so I guess honestly I'm kind of in a roundabout way. I do agree with you. I think the coaching will kind of fuck this up. Yeah. And not run the rock enough. I feel like it should be a lot more of a both teams like run the rock 50%, pass the ball 50%. I feel like it should be pretty even. Both these teams have obviously shown that they play very close to one another. It's not like that game was a blowout in their last one.
No.
And I just think, just slightly, just being at home, you'll get a little bit of advantage there. And given that they won the last one, and I called that they'd win this one, I got to stick with the Pats on this.
I will say this. The Patriots' first play of this game, if he's healthy, is going to be a play-action shot pass to N'Keal Harry, and they're not going to throw the ball again in the first half. I do think Buffalo's going to be ready for that. But that's why I think their legitimately first play out of the playbook is going to be a play-action shot to N'Keal Harry. And then beyond that, you just go back to what worked, right? Make Buffalo make the change, right? You just played each other 3 weeks ago. And you won the game playing a certain style. Make Buffalo change, right? I don't love the idea of adapting before the other team adapts, right? You are the one in advantage right now. There is no need for New England to change anything when you are in advantage. Make Buffalo show you that they've changed first, right? Too often, coaches try to outthink the situation. I don't think that's going to be Bill Belichick. I think Bill Belichick's going to go in there and go, listen, why? It's not on me to change anything. We play the same game. We win again.
Right.
Right?
I suppose it's just I thought that if you come out with the same stuff and you get stuffed, and that game can get away from you pretty quickly too, right?
Yeah, but I don't think Belichick's going to be the kind of guy who will let that happen.
Because, I mean, you take a look at that game, it's not like Buffalo's defense didn't show out quite a bit. And a lot of those drives were fucking nothing as far as what New England did.
Here's the thing, though. New England didn't win that game on offense or defense. They won it on time of possession. They just held on to the ball. They just didn't let Buffalo would.
You can't do that same game granted, I know you said the conditions are pretty bad. It's not going to be that bad. It's going to be
bad enough that it's going to affect the passing game again.
It will affect the passing
Freezing
game
rain
again.
Do you know how much those balls are going to slip? Those balls are going to be slick.
Those gloves are tacky, dude.
Doesn't matter when you're in freezing rain, man.
I'm just saying you have a team that's going to be willing to sling the rock a little bit more in Buffalo. So it's like I think the offensive production is just going to be more in general. And If New England decides to stick to the exact same game plan of how they win the last game, I think that's going to be a mistake.
I will say,
I think you need to generate a little bit more offense. So I think Mac Jones will sling the rock a little bit more than 10 times. That's fucking nothing. I can't believe he's still taking the under on that, but
still think it's the under.
yeah. Even Carson Wentz threw it 13 times, and they handed the ball to fucking.
I will say Buffalo's willingness to sling the ball is probably going to be a welcome sight for New England after having to face Jonathan Taylor.
Right.
They're probably sitting there going, please don't run the ball.
Right.
Just 0 runs.
We'll see. But yeah, I think so. We're both on the path on that one.
Yeah.
Sounds like. All right, let's keep it moving because we got a couple stinkers to actually go past. So let's keep it moving here. I don't know how much you want to even dive into this game. We got Jacksonville going into fucking New York to face the Jets. 2-12 Jags, 3-11 Jets.
Coin was right on the last Jags game.
Here I got dice. I'm gonna go dice on this one actually.
Okay,
that sounds good to me.
What's the line here?
I got my D6. This is New York hosting and getting a -1 at home.
Okay, so Jets are heads.
Yes.
Jags are tails.
I'm going odds evens.
We got the Jags.
Oh, you got the Jags. I got the Jets. Okay. Okay.
Let's move on.
All right. It's. I think the one thing that I will bring up that we both kind of nailed it on, or wait, no, actually, did I? We were split. This was the Houston Jags game. Yeah, Houston versus Jags last week, and everybody was very high on Jacksonville because they lost. Like Urban was gone. They're at home. They're actually favored. It's like, no, give me Houston, even with Davis Mills back there.
Did I take the Jags in that? Did the coin take the Jags?
I believe it did. Yes. Oh no! Wait, no! Sorry. We were both on Houston.
Okay. I thought
we were both on Houston. For some reason, I thought you were. I know the conventional thinking, anyways, was on the Jags for that game.
Yeah, no, I definitely conventionally argue the Jags, but the coin took the Texans.
Take a look at the notes. Yeah, you definitely had them. And the Jags fucking suck. And I can't imagine that the Jets, like, if there's one thing the Jets have going for them right now, thank God they're playing at home. That's all I got.
When I mentioned the Detroit
I don't know
Lions,
why. You gotta take somebody in this game.
When I mentioned the Detroit Lions and I said talent-wise, they're probably the worst team in the league, maybe bottom 2. The only other team I put in that is the Jacksonville Jaguars. No. And the only reason I put the Jaguars ahead of Detroit is because right now DeAndre Swift is hurt. So the Jags actually have a capable running back.
Right. Well, Jags actually have Carlos Hyde out. It looks like
but they got James Robinson anyways.
Yeah, but Carlos Hyde. Carlos Hyde's fucking. He's dead now. But yeah,
both teams stink. The Jags will win because the coin deemed it.
Right. Let's keep moving on to the next one. We got a little NFC East action here. This is going to be very interesting. One team you got to feel pretty good about. The other one, just trying to get the hell out of the season, basically. You got the New York Giants at 4-10 going into Philly to face the Eagles at 7-7.
Positive for the Giants. They have 2 what are probably going to be very high first-round picks. So
there you go. Yeah.
They got the Bears first rounder and their own first rounder. They're probably both going to be pretty high.
Philly getting -10 here at Lincoln.
I hate this line.
Right.
Because Philly's going to win.
Are they going to win by 10?
I actually liked some of the things I saw out of Jake Fromm at quarterback near the end of that game for the Giants. He had that team moving.
Yeah.
He had that team rolling a little bit. Now, I don't want to root for Jake Fromm. He seems like a rather terrible human being, and if you don't know, Google it. You'll find it pretty easily. They did move. They did move the ball at the end of that game against the Cowboys. And if Fromm's playing and they can keep moving the ball, it's not like I love Philadelphia. right? It's not like I think Philadelphia is. Give me the Eagles. I don't know.
Yeah,
I
that was a little
they
bit of
should
yeah.
they should win this by 10.
They should. Yeah, I mean, they just beat Washington by 10 points, another division rival. This is a weaker team, clearly, than Washington. In a season that things don't make sense, I suppose I shouldn't go on any kind of trends or anything like that. Yeah, the only time New York looked good is when they finally figured out to put Fromm back there. Um,
Well, I think they more figured out that Mike Glennon sucks.
well, yeah.
I somehow took them a game and 3 quarters to do, but they figured it out eventually.
I don't think Fromm, like, he looked better for the time. I don't think he moves the needle that much over an entire game.
Not
So
probably
I
not.
like the Eagles. Yeah, I have taken the Eagles multiple times before, so I suppose I'm a little pro them. I've been a little bit high on them. I think that is a team that could swoop that 7th spot for sure. It'll be very interesting with them, with the Vikings, with the Saints, who's able to actually really hone that in. All them sitting at 7-7 right now. But yeah, I do like Philly just enough.
Yeah, I will throw out there too with the Eagles. A couple winnable games here coming up.
Right.
Uh, but they're the Eagles, so they'll bungle one of them. Promise you that. Whether it's the Giants or the Washington Emails, they'll bungle one of them.
Let's see. Yeah, and yeah, I mean we could dip into some stats there. I mean, obviously they started running the rock a little bit more, so it's been to their benefit. But
The stats are simple. The Eagles run the ball really well. The Giants don't do anything really well.
no, exactly. So expect a lot of time possession, a lot of first downs from one side, and kind of a lot of 3-and-outs from the other. Right.
Now, Giants did beat the Eagles about a month ago.
That's right. That is true. That was the surprise one, and it was quite a shocker loss there for him. But I mean, yeah, again, home team. I gotta feel like that does a little something for them, and with a team that really with their sights on the playoffs, you gotta expect that they'll step it up. I figure if they step it up enough, they win by more than 10. Let's keep it going right into a little NFC South action. Two opposite sides of that division right now. Tampa Bay, who obviously came off probably the ugliest game you'll see from this team ever.
You didn't even need to preface that with this team. Probably the ugliest game you'll see ever.
That was
That was a hard game to watch.
And people will point to, oh, there wasn't any weapons. Well, yeah, same thing for the fucking New Orleans team they just played too. You want to talk about
they lost to
teams.
Taysom Hill. Don't even.
You want to talk about
Taysom Hill?
Yeah, precisely. My point exactly. Like you want to talk about decimated teams. That's some bullshit right there. But to the point, they're going in to Carolina to face against the Panthers, who have just been not looking good. 4 straight losses after that surprise win against Arizona way back. It seems like that was like season and a half ago. It was only 5 weeks ago. But they've since lost 4 straight there. Some ugly losses in there as well. Panthers plus 10 here at home. They're getting.
Would it make you feel more confident in the Panthers if I told you Sam Darnold might be back?
Absolutely not.
Me neither.
Wow. I was thinking like maybe not someone I heard of, but at least like a starter and somewhere else. Not at all. I mean,
Would it make you feel more comfortable if they were playing Cam Newton or PJ Walker?
yeah, exactly.
Man, the Panthers quarterback room.
Right.
They might not even get bowl eligible, let alone playoff eligible. Man, it's bad.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay doesn't have receivers or running backs. That's a problem. Carolina's defense is good. Tom Brady's probably going to be pissed off. But listen, I will say this. Tampa Bay games against New Orleans need to be immediately discarded. They don't count. Do not look at them for trends. Do not look at them for your stats. They don't count. Tampa Bay cannot beat New Orleans in the regular season. Just ignore it. Move on with your life. 10.5? Is that what you said?
I got it at 10. Let me see.
10?
This move at all?
Right.
I still got it at 10.
Give me Tampa Bay.
Tampa Bay. Yeah. That's where I went. I went Tampa Bay as well.
I can't trust Carolina to put up 10 points.
Well,
which means I need their defense to hold Tampa Bay under 20. I can't see that happen.
I think they'll put up more than 10 points, but I don't think it's.
They're starting Sam Darnold.
Garbage time and all that sort of thing kind of plays into it, I feel. But I feel like this is an early blowout from Tampa Bay, and they perhaps laid off the gas a little bit. But yeah, I still think they win by more than 10.
Okay, no, that's fair. If Tampa Bay's up by like 20 points in the fourth quarter, Carolina
I'm thinking midway through the third, even midway through the
they
third
might get past the 10-point mark at that point because Tampa Bay just gives up.
But yeah, I still think it will be a pretty distant game. I don't see any way in which Carolina's
the only thing that scares me is this Panthers defense is actually really good, and it's a shame that they play behind such an abysmal offense because it is like a very good defense. You look at like even the numbers are kind of unfair to them because they're just always on the field, right? Like they just get worn down game after game after game.
Oh yeah,
but they can cause problems for teams. They've done it all season. I can't trust the Panthers offense to do enough to keep this within 10. I can't.
Right. Kind of where I'm going with this. They do face each other 2 times in these last 3 weeks, so that'll be kind of interesting. See what happens this week and if that plays at all. But yeah, Tampa Bay has 2 games against Carolina and a game against the Jets to finish their season. So yeah, good for them. They'll be able to.
How did Tom Brady swing his black magic to get the schedule he did? Because we've talked about it before. Yeah. The Buccaneers' schedule early in the season also very much benefited them. They played teams at like the best possible time throughout the entire year. Right. Just constantly getting these teams. Like, you look at the beginning of the season schedule, the Eagles, they would much rather have played them then than now. The Dolphins, thank God we got them out of the way early. They got rid of the Patriots before they figured out how to play football. Like... Right. It's unbelievable how fortunate they got with the way their schedule broke down.
Yeah. Yeah.
Now they got the Panthers, Jets, Panthers to end the year. And again, Panthers at the start of the season might have been a little bit more scary. They started out 4-0, right? Like, they looked good. I don't know.
We'll see. We'll see. But yeah, we both
Tom's
got...
black magic.
We both got Tampa on that. Not too much of a surprise, I feel. Carolina's just... They're treading water until the end of the season.
Yeah.
Let's go into it. This is the third straight game with a 10-point spread right here. The LA Chargers going into Houston to face the Texans. Chargers.
Precisely. Do I need to give a reason? I talked about the Texans being down 23 players.
Yeah.
They already suck.
Yeah.
This could legitimately be college powerhouse versus FCS team level of bad scores.
The Chargers have been surprisingly not good this season in a lot of regards. This is a team that everybody felt like
they should be better than they are.
8-6. They could have really taken a stranglehold on their division, but now they're in the mess that is making the wild card in the AFC, and they are 8-6, just like 3 other teams are also 8-6, and you got others like Pittsburgh that, I mean, they're looking to sneak in somehow with like a tie in there that could fuck things up too. So that'll be interesting. And then all the 7-7 teams, like they've just like Buffalo, they've really kind of they've slipped and lost a lot of games that probably shouldn't have, and now find themselves really like these games matter for them. But yeah, against Houston, easy. Give me the Chargers.
Legitimately, if you were setting an over-under on Chargers points in this game, I would not even consider the under until you gave me 40. With the amount of players Houston's out and how bad of a team they already are,
Right.
I'm not even joking about that college, like Alabama versus Buthan and Cookman level scorer here. Like, I could easily see this game being 56-7. Right? Like, it's gonna be that bad.
And speaking of bad, let's go right into the next one. Let's keep moving right here. Two teams that have a combined record of 9-19 on the season. We got the
somehow
four.
Are both still alive in the playoff race.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I mean, like, yeah, a lot of things that go Chicago's way for that. But yeah, the 4-10 Chicago Bears going in to Seattle to face against the Seahawks at 5-9. Somehow the Bears are actually not the worst in their division. Seahawks are, though, in that NFC West.
No, Chicago's out. Sorry, I just thought about that. Chicago got eliminated last week.
4-10. Like, I'm like, they only have 3 wins. 7-10. That's quite a stretch. Like, a lot of things have to work that way. But yeah, Seattle being the home team, looking perhaps a little bit better, getting a -6.5 at home against the Bears. Both teams coming off losses. And, you know, kind of, well, actually, you know what? That Bears score is an anomaly. That was really a 17-3 game. They scored a tutty at the very end.
They scored a touchdown at the last play of the game.
Yeah, absolute garbage time. So, Bears just came off just another one of those real stinker offensive games to where they couldn't put up double digits even with the garbage time touchdown. Seattle barely put up double digits in a game against the Rams, but still made it a 2010 game. This is one to where the Seahawks team rallied off a couple wins. They took that one against the Niners early in the month, and then a win against Houston. But this team could easily be one of those 4-win teams, just like Chicago. I'm surprised they're catching 6.5 here at home. I like the Bears here on the spread.
I like Chicago. Or Seattle. I like Seattle.
Okay.
Don't write down Chicago. I like Seattle.
I got Seattle. I was like, damn, also on Chicago with me. That's surprising.
No. Both these teams are bad.
Yeah.
I will agree to that. But there are degrees of bad in the NFL. And I think there is a different degree of bad in this game. Chicago is trash. This team cannot do anything right now. Their defense is fine sometimes. Right? Sometimes they just go and give up 33 points. Their offense is non-existent and being held back by the worst offensive coordinator turned coach I've ever seen in my life in Matt Nagy.
Right.
Who is so bad at calling an offense. Last week I legitimately thought he was a defensive coordinator. Seattle still has Russell Wilson. I know he's not the same guy this year. Fingers clearly still bothering him. The Seattle team doesn't have the talent around him he's used to having. All this stuff is true, but he's still Russell Wilson, which means he's still better than every player the Chicago Bears have on offense.
Yeah, I just don't see them like really like running away with this game at any point. And so this is one where I feel like, yeah, absolutely, this Seattle has as much right to win this game for sure. I would never pick Chicago straight up on this one. 6.5 is just enough points to where I'm like, I could take Chicago and not have too many qualms with it. I still think Seattle probably wins outright. I think this is like
fair.
This is probably a 4-pointer. I can see that happening to where like Seattle will get a touchdown late. They'll go 4. So Fields has to drive down and try to win a game against Seattle, and that won't fucking happen. So
No.
we'll have a 4-point game.
That's fair. I mean, I can't argue it. I feel like Seattle is a touchdown better than Chicago.
Right. And not a bad assessment either on that. Enough talking about that game because that's
go to a good one, please.
This should be a pretty goddamn good one right here. We got the Pittsburgh Steelers at 7-6-1 going into KC to face the Chiefs at Arrowhead. Chiefs getting -8.5 here at home. Likes KC.
I don't like the Steelers. You know that.
Of course.
I picked them last week in a battle of two teams that I just don't trust at all.
Good call.
Right. This week there's a team I'm starting to trust again. Right. Kansas City starting to look like the Kansas City we knew they were.
Right.
Offense is starting to click. I'm surprised the defense hasn't seen too much of a drop off, seeing more plays. Right. You'd figure when that offense starts to click the way Kansas City's offense does. I've always said that a lot of the problem with Kansas City's defense is that when you have such a big play offense, quick strike, they score quickly, that defense is on the field a lot, right? It's going to get tired. We haven't seen as much of a drop-off on the defense as I'd expect to have seen, given that big play offense is back. They are quick strike, they are scoring points, like it's going out of style. This Pittsburgh team is not good. Right, like there's so many issues with the Steelers team. That 7-6-1 record is just so. It tells so little of the Pittsburgh Steelers story. I think Kansas City wins this one, running away. I think it could get pretty ugly.
Yeah, I have KC as well. I just don't have enough confidence in the Pittsburgh team to, They've gotten their doors blown off in previous games here. The Chiefs are hitting their stride. Multiple games in a row that they were able to hold the other team within less than 10 points there. Teams that I think are a little bit more even offensively gifted than the Steelers are. So, yeah, I like the Chiefs. Right when I saw that, I'm like 8.5. That's a pretty big line, but I think if Chiefs are playing like they do, I think they get that.
Yeah.
On to the last. Let's see. Oh, actually, no. We got 2 more. Here we go. 2 more games there on Sunday. We got Denver Broncos at 7-7. Get in the even odds. This is a true pick'em game right here. Going into Las Vegas to face against the Raiders, also at 7-7. So 2 teams, obviously, right there, trying to scrape into that wild card. Really kind of the last chance here for, I think, either of them. I think if they take a loss here, they'll need a lot of things to work their way to have any chance of making the playoffs. So really a necessary win for both these teams. Vegas has looked pretty goddamn ugly in some of these games as of recently. I think last time we kind of picked. I believe we actually were both on Cleveland in that game, not knowing exactly how the COVID stuff was going to work out. We were thinking.
I was going to say we both kind of thought Cleveland was going to have a bit more of their players back than they actually did.
Yeah, and so kind of a crazy loss or a crazy win that the Raiders ended up taking against Cleveland right there. The Broncos though just had this absolute weirdly flat game against the Bengals, who are fighting for their playoff lives as well. So both these teams not looking very good offensively, barely putting up into the teens in points, or if that. Denver only put up 10 points that last game. True pick'em game. Give me the team at home right now. I like the Raiders.
This is such a hard one.
Yeah, this one's tough.
Right, because we've mentioned it numerous times with the Broncos. They're this bizarre team that I don't even think the Broncos know from week to week what team they really are.
Right.
That defense is good. There's no 2 ways about it. But God, you got to get something out of your offense at some point. Now, uh, Teddy Bridgewater gonna be out for this game. Uh, you got Drew Lock in. What's interesting is Drew Lock probably has more boom potential on this offense than Teddy Bridgewater. He's got a live arm, right? It's a cannon. He hasn't shown much else in the NFL, but he's got a live arm. If the Denver offense with Drew Lock at it can actually start to move the ball a little bit, can actually start to show some level of we can do something, right? Like, even if it comes with an extra turnover or two, I still think Denver at that point feels pretty good about their chances, right? Like, if you get 3 touchdowns, 2 interceptions out of Drew Lock and he's slinging the ball like he can, we've seen him do it in the NFL. It's not been consistent by any stretch of the means, but he's at least shown the ability to do it. You would take that because it means that your offense is actually doing something. I think I'm going to take Denver. I think Denver's defense is going to do enough to keep the Raiders in check because they've done it all season to everybody, right? They haven't gotten the brakes beaten off of them by any offense. And I think Locke maybe commits a turnover or two more, but actually moves the ball down the field.
Yeah, I mean, I know they've been, as uncommittal to Locke as they could possibly be with a guy that they drafted, and just like he's not ready, we don't want to play him.
Relationship they have.
So it just like I can't have a lot of confidence in the guy. So yeah, upon learning that, and knowing that Drew Lock was going to be in there, it's like, well, you haven't trusted this guy with anything. How much are you going to be moving this ball? I think the Raiders, although I would say this is a pretty goddamn disappointing season for them right now. Given all the stuff that's happened, you have all the off-season stuff, but like even like when they were starting to get going, it just slipped out. Rug got pulled out from under them.
And I do feel bad for the Raiders team as a whole because I feel like a lot of the undercutting that's happened this year is just not anything the players on this team could have controlled, right? Like the ones who are still on this team, obviously. Right. Like the Ruggs situation and the Arnett situation and all that. Like there's nothing the guys here could have done to change any of that, but it's just constantly like John Gruden cuts the legs out from under this team, then Henry Ruggs cuts the legs out from under this team, then Damon Arnett, and it never stops, right? And I feel for them because I do feel like there's talent on this team. I don't know any team that can survive really what has happened to Vegas the way that it happened, just one after another after another. As you looked like they were starting to build something, right?
Yeah.
Before that happened, it looked like the Raiders were maybe starting to get a little bit of traction.
If there's one thing they could do right now pretty well, I feel, and this is exactly what they want to do to Denver, is be a spoiler. And I think if there's a team that feels like they're a little bit on that up trajectory and could sneak in there, it's a little bit more Denver than Vegas right now. And the Raiders have the ability to stomp that down. And I honestly, just at home, I feel like there's going to be a little energy in there, and I think this will honestly be something to where we kind of learn where this game's at. I think after maybe the first quarter,
100%.
I think if the Raiders are able to come out and do something against what has been a pretty goddamn good Broncos defense, if they're able to actually show some offense here, which they have not been able to do, that'll pay dividends. If the Broncos have to play this game from behind, I think this is actually a pretty, I wouldn't say easy Raiders win, but I think they have the ability to just kind of stomp this game out for because you have a Broncos team that just barely they can only put up 10 points against the Bengals in a game they really needed to win right there, and they weren't able to do it then. I don't have much confidence they'll be able to do it now, even with Drew Lock now back there as opposed to Bridgewater.
Yeah, it's fair. I mean, I'm basing it purely off of the potential that Drew Lock could actually do something on that offense, right?
True.
Which I know doesn't sound like much, but that's the kind of game this is.
Yeah.
You're kind of that's why it's a virtual pick'em, right? Like
Right.
you're looking at this going either way. You're taking a guess at something. Either
Yeah.
the Raiders are going to be able to figure out the puzzle of this Broncos defense, and the Broncos offense continues to be the same team it is.
Yeah.
Or the Broncos defense continues to do what it does, and Drew Lock pulls a little something extra out of this offense that we haven't seen yet.
Has a chance. Has a chance. But speaking of potential, here's the potential for a team that just took a bad loss, as is kind of on the outside looking in here, but has a chance to do it against a division rival. And, you know, I think looking at it, I think this is your NFC East winner, but plenty of opportunity here for Washington to get back into it. We got the Washington football team, the Washington Emails, 6-8, going into Dallas to face the Cowboys at 10-4. Dallas getting -10.5 at home. Taylor Heinicke will be back for Washington, though.
Thank God, because that Garrett Gilbert experiment failed miserably.
Right. These teams did play pretty recently, and I think Allen had to come in at one point.
Yeah, and nearly pulled off the comeback.
Washington did lose that game, but only by 7 points there. Now on the road going into Dallas, that has expanded out to a 10.5-point spread. Upon seeing that, this Washington team has battled. This Dallas team has kind of floundered at points. I honestly, and two completely opposite ends. Washington just coming off back-to-back losses. Dallas coming off 3 straight wins. I still think I like Washington to keep this within the point spread. I like them within 10.5.
Really thought we were going to split here, but I am also on the Washington on this one.
All right.
I've mentioned it before with Cowboys and big spreads. They don't really tend to blow out teams, right? They are one of those teams that has way too much talent to do the shit they do, but they do it. Right? They're going to let teams stay in games that shouldn't, right? They're going to let teams knot their heels when they really shouldn't. I know even that 21-6 game, right? I know you look at that and go, well, they easily covered the spread. Not quite.
Yeah.
Fromm nearly scored one of those late touchdowns to make that game not cover the spread again, right? That Saints game, again, 27-17, hey, covered the spread. Yeah, they needed a lot of help to do it, right? Heinicke being back, he's Schrodinger's quarterback. He constantly exists in a state of being good or bad until he plays. It's hard to say what you're going to get out of Washington, but I know what I'm going to get out of Dallas.
Right.
They're going to win this game. Probably not by a lot. They'll probably frustrate everybody who watches them. And they'll continue to be this team that just lets teams that have so much less talent than them hang around. And it's one reason. And I've mentioned that reason numerous times, and I'll say it again. It's Mike McCarthy.
Right.
Right? Until you figure out that this guy cannot coach a team to be a really great team, this is what's going to happen.
Yeah. I think it's just set up for probably a Dallas win. It's not even necessarily a game they need. I mean, it'll position-wise, obviously, yeah, they want to still win games.
And I think this is their clincher.
The East the East isn't really in question though now.
No, they would have to lose out, and Philadelphia would have to win out.
Precisely. But, yeah, I mean, you just can't really. I couldn't put any real faith in Dallas being able to run away with a game. that was kind of also my thinking. I think Heineke coming back, that's obviously going to aid Washington being able to keep this close. But I just don't have any faith in them being able to really pull out with a game regardless. So that's what led to me picking Washington there. Looks like we're both up on that. And yeah, that's a giant spread too, like 10.5 points. So it's
yeah.
And let's go to the last one. This is our Monday night game for the evening. What an awesome game, honestly.
But our WTF spread of the week.
Yeah.
At least mine, anyways.
A bit kind of learning about the quarterback situation. And actually, I'll ask you right off the bat. Well, we got just to let you all know, Miami Dolphins going into New Orleans. New Orleans getting plus 1.5 at home, which, given these two teams' records, all right, they're both right there at the same record. But Saints are going to be
Very
starting
circumstances.
A guy named Ian Book. Do you know anything about Ian Book, Craig?
Boy, do I.
Perfect.
Let me tell you guys about
I had a feeling
Notre Dame legend, Ian
Book. Let's go, Notre Dame. Hey.
Let me tell you guys a tale of Ian Book, okay? I love Ian Book. I'll start off right now by saying I love Ian Book.
I fucking love it. I just served this up. I'm like, I hope you have something for this. Otherwise, this is going to be a bust question.
A bit of a dual threat guy. Can run the ball decently well. Was more known for his arm. In his height year at Notre Dame, 34 touchdowns, 6 picks. Like, the guy throws the ball well. He keeps control of it well. Never threw below 60% in his career. He was a guy that New Orleans drafted in the 4th round because they felt there was developmental potential with him. And I still think there's developmental potential with him.
Yep.
And honestly, with what you've seen out of Taysom Hill, this might legitimately be an upgrade. That being said,
yes,
the Dolphins are playing very well right now.
Yeah.
They look like a team that...
How the fuck is this 1.5? I don't understand.
DraftKings has it New Orleans -3.
Wow, we could have got that spread. Shit.
Miami's just playing very well right now. I get that the Saints D is very good. They are. And I get that the Saints are coming off of beating the Bucks. But I said it with the Bucks thing, I'll say it here. Saints versus Bucks games need to be put into a corner, put it in a box, wrap it up, and put it off to the side. It doesn't count.
Right.
When those two teams play each other, the Saints are going to win.
Yeah.
Right? You just need to let that happen and understand that it's this weird anomaly that happens in the world where Tom Brady and the Bucks cannot beat the Saints. I will always take the team here that, to me, just looks like they're a playoff team.
Right.
Miami passes the eye test for me on that. They look like they're a team that should be in the playoffs this year, the way they've played in the last month and a half. New Orleans doesn't, right? They don't have an offense really to speak of. And now, a lot of New Orleans not looking like that team is losing Jameis Winston, and that sucks. But that's the way of the NFL. Simeon hasn't done it for you. Taysom Hill hasn't done it for you. Could Ian Book do it for you? Maybe. I mentioned it. I think there's developmental potential with Ian Book. Did a lot of good things at Notre Dame. So you are playing a bit of an unknown here, but Miami's looked very good recently. And against some good teams in there as well. I like the Dolphins here.
Yeah, I like the Dolphins. I immediately went them. Upon seeing the spread, I was very surprised. And knowing the quarterback situation, I mean, it's a guy that might have shown talent and that sort of thing, but at the hell of a situation, especially against Miami D that's starting to cook, that's going to be tricky for him. I don't see, and that's going to be the interesting thing. I mean, the lines are going to be heavily stacked toward Miami on this, but it will be kind of interesting. I mean, like, there's some good value. I mean, if you're just talking about a pure bet, I mean, Saints to be able to do this, you're probably getting some pretty goddamn good money as far as your odds are concerned, if you just took them straight up, right? But
Yeah, I'd imagine money line
Yeah,
probably fading the
it
Dolphins.
is incredibly actually.
Yeah.
84% of the bets toward New Orleans, but only 25% of the money. So still a huge amount of money on Miami right now.
Yeah, that makes sense. It's not often you see the money line and the ATS being so different, but
It's crazy.
this one, it's just because the spread is kind of weird,
Yeah,
right? It's a weird. It doesn't seem to make sense, right? You look at the two teams. You look at a Saints team that, yes, coming off of beating the Buccaneers, we get it. Rah rah, round of applause for everybody involved in
yeah,
that. They scored 9 points.
love to see it, but yeah, exactly 9 points.
Right? Like, surely to God, you cannot shut out the Dolphins this week after shutting out the Bucks last week. So you're gonna have to score more than 9 points.
I mean, this Saints team gave it 40 to Philly, so like, yeah, let's pump our brakes. It was a great game for them.
And listen, on a whole, their defense is pretty good. I'm with
Yeah,
you. They did give up 40 to Philly, but on a whole, the Saints defense has been at least respectable.
yeah, but
Right? It hasn't been an outstanding defense. Like, I'm not saying it's the best defense in the NFL, right? But this is a team that, you know, you look through the season, yeah, they had a couple stinkers in there, but they also, they held the Titans with Derrick Henry to 23,
right,
right?
right. Yep.
They held the Seahawks to 10, they held the Patriots to 13, right? This is a defense even in their losses, right? They gave up 27 to the Cowboys. And that was in a game where their quarterback was determined to give the Cowboys points, right? And
Right.
they managed to hold them. The 27-25 game with the Falcons, right? They held the Falcons 27.
Yeah.
That was another game where the Saints were determined to shoot themselves in the foot that whole game, and that defense actually kind of held them in it for a lot of it.
I mean, is Miami not like the crazy hot team though right now? Like,
But that's my thing,
yeah,
right? Like Miami, legitimately, not just winning games, doing it impressively,
yeah,
right? And I get, oh, well, they beat the Jets and the Giants. And it's like, yeah, but they put up 33 against that Panthers defense. We've talked about that Panthers defense ad nauseum. They're good. They put up 22 against the Ravens and just stymied the Ravens,
right.
right? They've played good teams in this stretch and beaten them.
And
So let's not act like this is a byproduct of just playing bad teams. This is a good team that was supposed to do a lot more than what they did at the start of the season.
yeah, the X factor, and I suppose this kind of brings it a little bit closer. And the X factor is both these teams clear shots to making the playoffs. And honestly, you
Yeah.
take a look at it, New Orleans Saints a bit more, given the NFC versus the AFC, right?
Probably because the AFC are probably going to need another, at least
So
one, maybe two
I
wins
think we're
to make.
both high on Miami right now, but especially that defense, New Orleans gonna be coming flying out. If they're able to get a win for Ian fucking Book,
I listen.
what a win that would be. Think about
I
that
am a
locker room.
Saints
It
fan
would be
going
fun.
into this
It would
game.
be fun.
Okay, I want to see that Ian Book win. I love Ian Book. Uh, I'd love this to be the start of Ian Book's long and storied career, and we look back and we talk about Ian Book on the Notre Dame legacy of
Yep.
Joe Montana. But being realistic, this is a tough situation for him,
Yeah.
right? He wasn't supposed to be ready this year.
Yeah.
This was never supposed to be it. This was a guy who was drafted to be on the practice squad this year,
Yeah.
to be learning, to be getting reps. You do all the stuff that you
And
do as a developmental quarterback,
he
then you
is,
start to work your way up.
and he is literally their only listed
Yep.
active quarterback
Yep.
going into this game. So
They
got
are absolutely
they got a
fucked.
punter probably, right? Their punter is their emergency, and that's fucking it. Maybe they got a wideout that could do it. I mean, they had a wideout that could do it, and fucking name was Taysom Hill, but they don't have Taysom Hill.
You know who's probably their backup? You know who's probably their backup quarterback? Alvin Kamara.
I mean, hell, why not run the Wildcat at that point?
I'm pretty sure Kamara played high school quarterback.
I can't imagine he'll actually play any kind of like true quarterback. They might
No.
they'll give him a
But I
couple throws
mean,
potentially. But
he's
yeah.
a guy who's taken quarterback snaps in the past, I think. So Alvin Kamara is probably the backup.
Yeah, why the hell not? That actually sounds kind of interesting. If they ran the Wildcat with a little couple passes in there, it'd be like the Dolphins not too long ago, run that Wildcat. All right. Well, that's the slate of games right there. We went through the entirety. It's every goddamn game this week. Um, Outside, I guess, the Niners, Titans had already played, and we were split on 4 of them. And just to review those real quick, Detroit at Atlanta. Atlanta -5.5 at home. I got Detroit.
Boys.
I got Detroit. Craig got the hometown, not his actual hometown, but his home team, I guess. I don't know how you call it. His favorite, the Falcons.
Hard to explain my love of the Falcons and how that came about. It's actually not that hard.
I know an abnormal amount of Falcons fans compared.
It's actually not that hard to explain how I became a Falcons fan. If you'll indulge me for 2 minutes. Growing up in Canada,
the cheetah.
What?
I was going to say the cheetah. Famous
No.
Atlanta dance club. Very great establishment. Has great chicken fingers.
Yes. Oh, fantastic!
Yeah,
I'll have to visit someday.
Hey, love to show you around, baby. Nah.
Growing up in Canada, you don't get to. It's very different than growing up in the U.S., especially even growing up in Canada nowadays. So nowadays, NFL Red Zone's very easy to get.
Yeah.
Right. You couldn't get Red Zone back in the day in Canada, so you just got to watch whatever was on. Right.
Yeah.
Which means I essentially got all the Seahawks games and then just a grab bag of everything.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I did grow up liking the Seahawks, by the way. Matt Hasselbeck. I loved Matt Hasselbeck. But when the Falcons started to get good, when they got Michael Vick and stuff like that, they were national every week.
Of course.
Right?
Yeah.
They were the national team. So every week, I got to watch a Falcons game, right? So over time, I got to love guys like Warwick Dunn, like Michael Vick, obviously, like Michael Brookings, right? So that's my era of Falcons, right? So as you get to know those players and as you get to watch them, and it just happens, right? Like, if you watch the same team every week, you get to like the players. And it's one of those things where I didn't grow up with a hometown team or a market in my hometown, so
Right.
I just picked the team whose players I got to know, right? The players who I got to like.
Yeah, pretty understandable. I mean, yeah, it's just funny how it's all worked out. It's like, oh man, another Falcons fan that I know. Know a few of them nowadays. So it's, but it definitely like, it's. I look back, it's like that was a hell of a rivalry back in the day. You talk about those like late '90s teams and stuff like that. We're just dirty birding back at each other like constantly and shit like that. Those were good times, man. That was a fun era of football right there in the late '90s into the 2000s there between the Falcons and the Niners. Back when at a time, division rivals. You somehow had the Atlanta Falcons in the West there with the Niners. So there was
that made a lot of sense. Huh?
Yeah, I mean. That shit didn't make sense for a lot of ways, but that was definitely an interesting one. It was definitely a fun rivalry. So it'll be interesting to I mean that post Matt Ryan era, which is it's gonna be coming around at some point. You just wonder.
I think we're on the tail end of the Matt Ryan experience, boys.
Right. But yeah. We'll keep going through the game. I'm just kind of going through the splits there. So yeah, Detroit, Atlanta. I got Detroit. Craig has Atlanta. Jacksonville, New York. I mean, what a crap game to pick. We're flipped on it though because I rolled a dice. Craig flipped a coin and they came out the other side. I had New York on the odds. I rolled a 3, so I got New York. Craig flipped a coin and it turned up Jags. So he has the Jags. So we'll see RNG how it works out for either one of us. Chicago.
Coin's 1-0 for your boy.
Oh,
Coin
damn.
is 1-0.
I have not rolled a dice for a pick yet, so this is
App's first dice roll.
Yeah, we'll see about that. It's been shaky at times with D&D and stuff. Chicago going into Seattle. Big spread on this one. -6.5 for Seattle at home. Both these teams losing records. Chicago's looked pretty goddamn ugly though, so I kind of understand this pick. Seattle is the pick for Craig. I got Chicago to keep it within those points. I still think Seattle actually wins outright, but I think it's just a little closer. And then last one, Denver versus Vegas. This is a true pick'em game. +0 on the spread here. So I literally got Vegas because they're at home. They're both scrapping it out, and it seems like there's a little life still there for the Raiders to be had. Denver's kind of had that flounder, and they really let themselves down in their last game against the Bengals there. But Craig has the Broncos.
Just hoping for something out of that offense. That's all it is.
Maybe Drew Lock. Drew Lock potentially.
Maybe he gives him something.
Could do something for it. I don't have much as far as post game. I know we'll probably hit on it real quick. My boy. Let's talk about it now. Frank Gore. I think you called it. You called it. He gassed about midway through the first, and then it just extended into the second, and it never looked too good. Damian Williams played a fucking ugly game though. Like that little. I don't know if you saw
Williams.
Darren. Yeah, sorry, Damian. That pushing the ropes into an uppercut, give me a fucking break, dude. I understand it's a boxing match, but that was dirty as absolute fuck. Exhibition match too. You gotta be fucking kidding me.
You are pushing the limits of what
I
saw a few boxing fans out there too calling that push into an uppercut. Little bit on the dirty side. Little bit on the dirty side.
No, not a little bit. That shit. That's really fucked.
It was bad. That's fucked up.
But it's it's like, would it have made that much of a difference in the fight in general? No. But he was just trying to knock him out illegally right there. It's like, what the fuck are you doing that for? Yeah. I mean, it's still in the second round and shit, but it's like, give me a fucking break, dude. I don't know. I hated that. I was yelling at the TV.
No, I'm with you.
Watching the Colts and the Patriots on the other screen, but then focusing on that, I'm just flipping out at the fucking fight.
I had no dog in this fight. I'm not a Jazz fan. I'm not a 49ers fan or anything like that, right? So I didn't really have much of a dog. I saw it in Frank Gore's training videos, right? He had cement shoes on. Right? And anytime that you see a guy whose legs are that heavy, whose feet are that heavy when they stand, right? They're gonna gas themselves, right? He was too uncomfortable going from power to back to movement, right? And when you do that, you waste a lot of energy, as opposed to the best boxers in the world will do that very smoothly, right? They'll be able to stomp down quick and get that power and be back on their toes before the punches even landed, right? He looked like he was wearing cement shoes at times. Williams looked exactly like I thought he would look. Fine for an athlete who is boxing, but it was what it was, right? We all knew what we were going to get out of it. It was dirty as fuck. I'm not trying to deny that, right? Deron Williams pushing the ropes into the uppercut.
I mean,
you don't do that.
It would have changed. I mean, we all saw
now.
Gore was gassed.
I have mentioned this before. Deron Williams mostly trains kickboxing.
Right.
That is a very common technique in kickboxing. That back the guy into the ropes to open him up. Yeah. Right? And then when he comes back in, you go underneath. Very common technique in kickboxing. It usually leads to you go underneath, that pulls them down, and then you go up to the head kick. Right? So in kickboxing, it's a very common technique. But you got to know your rules. You don't do that in boxing.
Yeah, it just doesn't, optically, it just doesn't look good when you do that. No. It just clearly is like, wow. Yeah, if a bunch of fighters were doing that, we'd have a lot more trouble in fucking boxing. Cause,
for sure.
You're setting a guy up to get not only KO'd, but you're taking the worst punch off your foot, no real defensive ability, and you're just getting a clean shot on a guy like that. That's a lot of things wrong with that. But it realistically, it looked like it was his fight to just take handle of, and it didn't look too great. And I suppose we could touch upon real quickly. I mean, we saw the I want to say Cristiano. I know that's not her name. The match right before
Serrano.
Serrano. Thank you. Messing that up. I mean, obviously, I think everybody took a look at the images after the fact while you're watching the fight. It was just it was pretty clear One of the fighters looked like they just kind of got off the treadmill, maybe did some work against the bag, and another one looked like they were the bag. And good God, but like, what a fucking brawler! I mean, like for her competition to just be able to like kind of stay in there, stayed in the pocket, swinging, still swinging, still
did
swinging,
everything
like
she could, right?
Hell of a fucking go at it. Like
you're facing Amanda Serrano,
right? There's a reason there's only one loss there, right?
Yeah, I said it going into the fight. Depending on how you count Clarissa Shields as an active boxer, she is either the best women's boxer right now or top 2.
Right.
Right. I know that there's a lot of people look at the pound for pound rankings. A lot of people have Katie Taylor up there. Some people have Jessica McCaskill up there. You got to understand something that if you're not a boxing fan that you don't know, 90% of boxing is politics. Right? I would argue I would put Serrano ahead of Katie Taylor, right? But I understand people who want to put Katie Taylor number 1, especially those who are in charge of the WBC, who are her head parent company, right? Who want her to be the number 1.
Right.
1, right? Regardless, 1 or 2, you're talking about one of the best. Versus somebody in Miriam Gutierrez who honestly, as an opponent, by the way, as an aside, had also just been mauled by Katie Taylor, right? Like, this fight did exactly what boxing wanted it to do, which is Katie Taylor mauls Miriam Gutierrez. Now Serrano mauls Miriam Gutierrez. Now we're set up perfectly for the Serrano-Katie Taylor fight, which I hope happens, by the way. I hope everybody's able to dot the I's, cross the T's, because that fight could be big for women's boxing. And women's boxing right now needs a big money fight, right? So I hope we get it. I think it looks like everything is pointing in that direction, right? That's the only justifiable reason I can see putting Miriam Gutierrez in there against Amanda Serrano.
Yeah.
Is that Serrano does exactly what Serrano did to her, right? And just mauls her, right? Like you said, props to Gutierrez for standing in there and really trying to bring the fight to Serrano, but she was always second best.
Oh, right? Yeah, no doubt.
So now you set up that fight that you want, right? Which is Taylor Serrano. Yep. Can't wait for it. That's something I'm looking forward to next year that I think is going to happen. If we can talk about one more fight on the card, I'm not going to touch on the main event. We all knew it was going to happen. I don't care, right? Tyron Woodley. It was disgusting. I'll give him that. But Tyron Woodley's not a boxer.
Yeah.
I want to talk about the fight that I thought was the best on that card.
Yeah.
And the one I talked about going into that fight, going into that card, is being incredibly excited about.
Yeah.
Yomar Alamo and Liam Paro had a dog fight, man. I actually scored it to Alamo. Right? I was on the split side for Alamo. But it was razor thin. We're talking about literally how you score rounds 3, 6, and 10 being the deciders in this one.
Right.
Every other round, there's 1 and 2 were clearly to Alamo. He rocked him early. I think he might have knocked him down, if I remember correctly. I haven't rewatched the fight, but I think he knocked him down. Paro in the middle section gains a large modicum of control and then looks like he gasses a little bit towards the end. 10th round's really close, 6th round's really close, 3rd round's really close. It all depends on how you score those rounds. And they are really razor thin rounds. But what an awesome fight that was. That's the kind of fight that you love to see on boxing cards, right? You got 2 guys who are legitimately near the top or at the top of their divisions. Let's get them going, right? It's not a fight you see enough in boxing, but it's certainly the fight that you want to see in boxing. So props to both guys. I know super lightweight's not a money class, but I think they could have gotten a little something out of this one. Maybe putting it as a co-main on a Triller card that maybe wasn't as heavily reliant on Jake Paul. Because I know Triller's trying to get some cards out there that aren't Paul brothers related that are just boxing cards. I think this is the kind of fight that you maybe could have saved for one of those.
It's a good point because it kind of gets washed out, right? You're fourth on that line, right?
They were the opener for Deron Williams and Frank Gore.
yeah, exactly. So you get a little bit of that, and especially because you're going in there on a night in which it's a Saturday night that the NFL happens to start playing their games on Saturday night. So I know, as far as just being in a household that had multiple screens going, a lot of eyes were on that football game.
Yeah.
Not so many on the boxing stuff.
Yeah.
I try to keep eyes on both of them at the same time, basically. But yeah, it's like you got that going for it. I think me and you have seen that in the past and in this one, you get some legit fights on these Triller cards. But
those undercard fights are scraps, man.
It still plays to, I don't want to say gimmicks, but it still plays like to that kind of the show they've presented before. I think obviously who you're booking as your headliners and stuff like that has a lot to dictate with it. And then when it's done in previous times, as far as like the, essentially having concerts in the middle as you're going through an event. I don't think we didn't see that at all really for this one. So
no,
that went more like I think at moments, because it's better than like the filler bowl crap that we get for the most part, right? It's like, okay, the guys behind the desk that already heard like the pre-show or whatever, we're going to cut to them for 15 minutes. We're going to have some guy hawk some bullshit, or his next fight, we're going to have an next box, or a boxer that's going to be fighting in the next card or whatever.
Yeah.
They're going to be cutting some promo or some shit. So it honestly is better than that. But it also, I think, for your traditional boxing fan, they're watching a fight, and then all of a sudden they're like, why the fuck am I watching Wiz Khalifa right now? And it's just like the weird, like they're trying to satisfy a couple audiences there. I don't think it's going to make the mark completely on both sides. I really appreciate the show they do put on, and the fights. They do have legitimate fights on these cards, and you got to appreciate that. The more that they do what you're saying right there, and you're not leaning on like a Paul brother or some washed up MMA fighter or something like that to be there to promote it, all the better. So I hope to see that in the future. It's definitely, you're going to have ESPN and those guys, they're going to be doing their fights, HBOs and shit like that. But this is honestly the one that drives a lot of eyeballs, and so it could be a really good platform for these fights, these fighters.
I actually think Triller's next card is the Michael Hunter Jerry Forrest fight.
And are they tied to Showtime, or is that still
Showtime,
separate? Yeah. Okay,
yeah. I think it's the rematch of their draw that they just had, actually. Right. If you guys, like, if people out there listening don't know about that Michael Hunter Jerry Forrest fight, one of the best fights of last year.
Yeah, dude. Yeah.
Right. And split decision draw, probably the right call. It was a really razor thin one. It was hard to separate them. Triller's hosting the rematch later next year, it sounds like. It sounds like they're close to doing that. That Michael Hunter Jerry Forrest card was, I think, their first card to not feature a Paul brother. I hope they do, and I hope they, like, that's the kind of card where you put like a Liam Paro, Yomar Alamo kind of fight, right? That's two guys who, if you're into boxing, you'll look at that fight and you'll go, there's something there, right? But it sounds like they're looking to set up the rematch of that Hunter Forrest fight, and I hope they do, because that fight deserves some more rounds. That draw was awesome. Give me 12 more of that. I actually got a couple things I want to touch on here. First one is going to be a quick little addendum to my college football bowl special, because Texas A&M has had to pull out of the Gator Bowl.
That's right.
Uh, actually, I'll quickly say a lot of respect to Texas A&M for doing what they did. They have 27, 28 players missing. Some of them because of the COVID situation they have, some of them due to injury. But they're having trouble fielding teams for practices. Now, they could have stayed in this game, taken the money, got absolutely demolished, gotten their kids hurt, right? Gotten guys who shouldn't be ready to be on the field out on the field. They decided instead to do what was probably the right thing and say, listen, we can barely field the team as it is.
Yeah.
It's not going to be competitive enough. We're not going to send our kids out there to get hurt, to get murdered for an extra couple $100,000, right? We're going to do the right thing here. So first and foremost, respect to Texas A&M. Would have been very easy to take their money, right? Be on ESPN on New Year's Eve, playing in the Gator Bowl. They didn't. Rutgers is it. Now, a lot of people will look at 5-7 Rutgers against number 20 Wake Forest and go, well, this is an easy one. Quickly, I will say, if Wake Forest is getting any more than 10 points in this game, you might want to consider betting Rutgers. This is a team that has played a few good teams this year and kept them really close. Michigan beat them by 7. Michigan State, the score looks a lot worse than it was. At halftime, Michigan State was up, I think, 7 points on Rutgers. Got a couple of scores late to win that one 31-13. The only team that's really blown them out this year is Ohio State. If you are looking to bet on this game and you're thinking this is easy money, throw down on Wake Forest, look at that line first. Because if Wake Forest starts getting 12, 13 points on that line, Rutgers might be a good, you can make a big bang for your buck play on this one. So that's my addendum to the Gator Bowl. I'm not going to officially count the Gator Bowl on my record. I'm 6-8 right now. I got bone skied tonight. We had Army come back yesterday, get us the win to bring us back to 500 on the predictions. 0-2 tonight.
Damn.
But the last thing I want to talk about is the World Junior Hockey Championships.
Oh, nice.
Now, I don't know if this is a thing in the States. It's probably not. But in Canada, Boxing Day is like World Junior Hockey Championship Day. It's a big thing in Canada. Like, everybody sits around, you know, because Boxing Day, nobody wants to do anything, right? It's the day after Christmas. Everybody had family over. We're all still hungover from the turkey and everything. You sit down on the couch, you watch World Juniors all day. That's what you do. It is. It's a literal Canadian tradition. As old as I'm alive, right? Like, I have memories from being a kid. December 26th, you sit on the couch, you turn on TSN, you got the World Juniors going all day, baby.
There you go.
I know this is going to sound very homery. Canada should win it this year. Just throwing my prediction out there. They do have the best team on paper. That being said, I got 2 teams for everybody to look out for. One team shouldn't be a surprise to anybody if you know World Junior stuff. Sweden is going to be tough to beat this year, especially Jesper Wallstedt. One of the best goaltending prospects we've seen in years. He can steal a game on any given night if he wants. However, I was watching the pre-tournament games today, and I have heard all build up to this about how Finland is just not going to be a great team this year. They played the States today, and they played the States hard. The States looked like they struggled to keep up with them. The Finns looked like they had a decent amount of pace. Looked like they were able to push the play. Finland could be a team that could spring a surprise or two, maybe push themselves into the medal hunt at this World Juniors. But Canada should be the favorite. If you haven't watched the World Juniors before, tons of fun. World Junior Hockey Championship is just a fun time. I think the games are on ESPN or NHL Network. If you're bored, you want something to do, check out the World Juniors. It is great fun.
Yeah, it doesn't get so much play on like ESPN, that sort of thing. If you go to like I want to say TSN, like Channel 81 and stuff like that in my local area, that's where you start to get some of those games. I suppose as far as like when you talk about like junior level competition, I mean, Little League World Series and stuff like that. Yeah, it doesn't get so much play. Honestly, I try to think about any of that level competition that really gets too much run as far as televised. Don't really, yeah, can't really remember anything outside of Little League that gets too much play. So that's awesome. I mean, like and yeah, to have something like that as the more or less to your tradition of what you do on it given day, Boxing Day, that sort of thing. Obviously, with juniors, talk about a little bit older players than Little League World Series
no,
players, right?
The word juniors is kind of
Exactly.
overplayed here. It's
But
generally 16 to 20-year-olds.
but yeah, like it definitely. I mean, and I guess that's kind of the funny thing to it too is there is a lot of. I mean, you're seeing talent on the ice that'll be professional players,
Oh yeah, no.
not
The
very
World Junior
long at
Hockey
all. So
Championship
yeah,
players, like you go back through the roster of World Junior Hockey Championship
yeah,
teams, you'll recognize every name on them, right? You'll
yeah,
recognize, you know, go back to the Canada team from the lockout year, and it's literally McDavid, that group of players, right? You look back a couple years ago, the USA won a tournament. They had the Kachuk brothers on it, and they had a bunch of those. The guy who's killing it for Anaheim right now. I'm blanking on his name, but like you'll look through the old rosters and you'll see like this is where you get to see the NHL talent before it gets to the NHL.
yeah.
Right. But I'm not joking, by the way, when I say this is a Canadian thing. Literally, if I were to turn on TSN right now, there's as much of chance seeing a World Junior commercial as me seeing literally whatever program is on right now. I'm gonna put that to the test. As I say it. I got my clicker right here. I was on TSN last time. Oh, holy shit, it's actually a World Junior commercial.
There you go.
Okay, okay. I wish I could turn my camera right now, but there's actually a World Junior commercial going on right now. But that's my point. It's a
There you go.
big thing here.
Good stuff.
Yeah, that's what I got for this week.
All right. I think that wraps it up right there for us. We're about on hour 3 here. Um, yeah, thank you all for joining us if you did. This was a nice Thursday night edition. I wasn't sure if I was going to be able to make it, kind of rallied up. Was able to do so. And yeah, hope you all have a great holiday weekend here. I'll be decently busy myself, and then yeah, we'll see when I'm able to make it back in on Friday night. But yeah, I'm looking forward. Obviously, it's gonna be great. Saturday games, I'll probably just be kicking back, watching those, looking pretty forward to those. I mean, obviously that nightcap is gonna be awesome with Indy and stuff. So looking forward to that. Yeah, and I don't really have anything else to add. So hope you all enjoyed the episode. This is Sports Clichés with Jay and Craig, episode 9. Happy holidays, y'all, and we'll see you next week as we head into what would be typically your final week of the regular season in week 17.
We got 2 more now.
We got 2 more now, so we'll be looking at how the playoffs have shaken out, what those look like, and picking our next slate of games. So see you all then.